This episode of Scab Talk is brought to you by Lethal Gaming Gear. And welcome back to Scab Talk, everyone. Today's episode, we'll be catching you up on the Tarkov news and some media from the BSG devs, which have been posting a lot more frequently, or rather, we've been keeping more of a track on, so we'll fill you in on that information. Then we're going to switch gears and do a bit of a discussion on a weapon attachments, specifically the Foregrips. We're going to do a tier list live on the fly. I'm sure that's going to go perfectly smooth. Then we're going to talk about marathon routes. I know Giga's been messing about with that and a little bit of hardcore. And then we're going to switch gears completely. Well, not completely, but GrayZone Warfare released a devlog number 6 that Giga's going to inform us about. And then I will discuss a bit of Deadlock and their new mode with 6 new heroes.
Cool. All sounds good. Yeah, relatively quiet for EFT again. And I've been slacking off big time because this week, usually I have my 3 normal scheduled slots. I have Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Monday, I was playing Factorio because that came out in 1.0. And I thought, you know what? Screw it. We'll play it on the stream. It'll be fun. I think that the Tarkov community and the Factorio community are not necessarily got that much overlap, but sure. the piece of the Tarkov community that associates with me and my content probably does actually have a much greater overlap. Like if the Venn diagram's like, Tarkov and Factorio people, a lot of my Tarkov people sit in the middle in the middle of the Venn diagram with the Factorio part, because they kind of they work on the same parts of that type, that sort of like gaming personality type or whatever. So I thought, we'll try it. And there was a lot of people who were interested, actually. Loads of people came in, like really enjoyed it and was just like, oh, this is like super cool. Because for context, Factorio has just released a new DLC. So they've done a big patch for the game and also released a new DLC as well. And it's like extended out the end game. Apparently the game's like twice as big or something. So I was playing that on Monday. I haven't actually done it. I did like a tiny little bit more offline, but I just haven't had time. So that was Monday. So I didn't play any Tarkov then. Tuesday, I ended up cancelling the stream because I had like some family who'd come up from further down the country. So I wanted to see them because I just don't get to see them that often. So there was that. And then Thursday, I had to cut the stream short because I had to go to like parents' evening at the nursery for, with the teachers and whatever. So like I played like 2 hours of Tarkov this week in total. But I've got like a couple of videos that I've been doing at the minute, like the one I just released about, there's like sound about suppressors and whatnot. There's a lot of stuff that is just like testing. It's not necessarily, I don't need to be like playing. It's not like a, so much gun video stuff. So it was less required, but I've like almost felt like a little bit, sort of unplugged a bit this week, which I think is kind of good, because it's like getting to that tough fish part of the wipe from a content perspective, especially in a short wipe, and especially one without much actual real content. And it's just like everyone's going through the motions, doing the same thing, over and over. And it's like, what are people actually going to find interesting that I can talk to them about? And, it's just gets to that stage. So it's quite nice just to take like kind of a bit of a break from that a little bit and do something different and focus on real life a bit more and whatever. But either way, like as we said, it is pretty quiet. There's not really that much news per se. I think the only main change to the game that we have right now is the goons. So we said last week about the cultists. The cultist event, they were spawning where the goons spawn, and so the goon spawn went down to something really low. I think it was like either 6 or 8, I forget. But 8. And so on Woods, Customs, Shoreline, and Lighthouse, the goons are now back up to 20 because the cult event has finished. There's no other event to replace it or anything like that. We're just playing regular Tarkov again. I say everybody else other than me. Been playing regular Tarkov this week. And if you wanted to find the goons, then at least you're going to find them one every 5th raid on those maps. Depending on where they're spawning and all of that good stuff. But at least they're something reasonable. But in terms of like in-game updates, I think that's genuinely it. I don't think anything else has happened.
Yeah.
Still waiting for patch 15.5 to come at some point, which, as I said last week, could really be any week. It could be any week. It doesn't necessarily need to be now. Like we're halfway through this patch, presumably, assuming a wipe in December, sort of end of. But it could be anytime in the next like couple of weeks, up to a month maybe. Otherwise, it gets like a little tight. You only have like a month for 15.5 before going into 16.0, which is like not inconceivable. Like they could run it close to the end and then push out the actual white patch then, or late, right? Even in Jan or something. So who knows? We're still waiting. We are still waiting.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty gracious. I will forgive BSG for being late on delivering their latest update during the Scab Talk recording. Usually, I mean, historically they've been pretty good about providing that for us, but it's okay. I'm a gracious podcaster. What can I say?
And they've still got a couple of hours to,
Yeah.
post something right in the middle of Scab Talk, which is the usual thing. So, as I said, I've been following a few more of the BSG team people posting stuff. There's nothing really that important that's appeared, but there's some very random stuff that's coming out. And we'd said before, there was that obvious guy who was like the lead art director and stuff. So we've seen some very random things. There was one that was actually quite cool, which I saw this morning. I don't know when it was actually posted. It was actually posted yesterday. But yeah, this is about the hideout, and this was sketches. This is from you, who's one of the artists, basically. And he was like, look, these are the original sketches from the hideout, with the L-shaped thing. So you can see, I mean, this is pretty much how it ended up being, right? You've got the shooting range on one side and the bed on the other, and you've got the little door, which kind of leads to security now. Obviously, there's that extra room that we have for the gym and stuff, which has reappeared. But it was quite cool because he said, oh, yeah, this is, there's like the rough layout of the modules or whatever in the L shape, but this is defined by the theme of this old bomb shelter, which was like the inspiration. And there were 2 photos under that thread about with some pictures of it, which is kind of cool because it basically looks like Reserve. It's like the style of, right? It's like kind of true to life. I mean, you can see that's probably like the Intel Center kind of inspiration whenever you've got like the shooting range thing. But I mean, it looks like the middle section of Reserve, right? I mean, it's sort of a similar aesthetic. Sure. Yeah. And it's pretty, it's neat to see these behind the scenes. I actually quite like this stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool to see those things coming out of the team. There was, I mean, that was like one of the more serious ones, just taking a throwback. Then there was just 2 like just crazy ones. The middle one is when you take the rail mounted scope a little bit too literally.
I love this one.
Which hopefully Church can bring up for anybody isn't actually watching the actual video. They've somehow, for some reason, I mean, they must just be messing around with models and stuff, but they basically mounted an L-can on a set of actual train track rails, the scope on a set of train track rails, and it's like huge. It's like the size of a container. And it just says, when you take the rail mounted scope a bit too literally, which is quite funny. I think somebody was posting in the comments about saying, maybe you could put something like an Easter egg like this, and they're like, nah, it's going to ruin the immersion. We can't just like stick a huge L-can in the game. That's kind of crazy.
It's like actually scaled up to the size of like the boxcar of the train. It looks pretty funny.
Yeah, it's good. It is good. And then the last one, I don't even know what this is about. This is this like the elusive chicken that's reappeared. So there's like Nikita posted a load of stuff about chicken. There was one that he posted from the streets ages ago, which was like the chicken looming over the street skyline. If you remember, it was a huge chicken.
Yes, I do remember.
That actually like gives me a throwback to like CS Source, where when you used to, so the way that CS Source used to work, it used to like project the skybox around the map, and the skybox was actually like physically located somewhere in like miniature, and you used to be able to no clip to the skybox and then turn no clip off and just like walk around, and you'd be like walking around the background of the map.
Yeah,
kind of reminded me of that. But anyway, I don't know what this is. It's like chicken with a helmet on. It's I think it's a Masco actually with the visor up, and then it's just like rolling around with 2, are they MP7s?
Yeah, they look like are MP7s or MP9s.
So, something like one of the 2. I'm not really sure. And there is sound as well. If you can, I don't know whether you can put the sound on, but it's just
I can definitely do it.
More voiceover style, similar style to last time.
Here we go. Are we ready?
So I don't know what they're doing. They're just messed around, like making stuff. There's like 2 videos, and then another one of this like toy car truck thing that they've like inserted into streets for no good reason. It's very strange. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, did you see the
I enjoy it.
The short that they posted? I could probably find it real quick.
Some of them are really good. I actually tend not to because there's so many of them that I just forget to look at them.
For sure. but there's one with like it was on interchange, you know, the little racetrack outside of
Oh
Idea.
yeah.
And like, yeah, I found, oh my god, this thing
Oh no,
is,
I think I did see this.
this is absolutely cursed. It's super loud too. Like, what am I looking at? It's like,
Was it a sandbag with Killer's head or something?
it's so
Like
weird.
racing around the
And it's
track.
slide, and there's an actual, like, I often wonder, I mean, surely they just, someone in office does this. But like, sometimes I can't help but
Oh
wonder,
yeah.
I'm like, do they hires, like, you know, contract out some of these Tarkov 3D model artists or whatever? I mean, probably not, because I mean they, yeah, probably not. But my brain can't help but wonder sometimes because this stuff is just like so, like you just don't see this type of stuff from like quote unquote traditional game studios. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. PSG's anything but traditional in all the good ways and in all the worst ways.
yeah. So that's something pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty cursed. If I do say so myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean that's what the Tarkov updates these days has come to, is basically Killer's head speeding around a racetrack. That's pretty that's pretty much all there is to say. I mean, myself, yeah, I mean, I've just been trying out a few different things. Like on Thursday, I was just messing about with some kind of like zero to hero sort of marathon sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it was sort of like a half and half hybrid. It's kind of like doing a zero to hero is fine, and I've done lots of zero to hero in the past, like maybe like 3 wipes ago. But there is a sort of like it's for the experience and not really for anything in particular. And I thought, well, if you combine this with marathon, then it could actually be quite interesting, because then at least you've got like a proper goal. It's like stay in the raid as long as you can. You do seem to get better matching when you're in marathon mode, so at least you get in and out of raids fairly quickly. I'd need to actually go and test that and actually see if that is the case or not. Go and look at the matching time, because it certainly feels quicker. I mean, it would make sense to have a priority queue for marathon people, because
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a lot of loading relative to other people within a short space of time. And yeah, I just thought, well, let's try it. Let's do some hardcore, and but also at least vaguely attempts to try and do the marathon achievement at the same time. And those two things are complicated because they kind of clash in some ways, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Because so the new marathon, just to remind everybody, the new marathon achievement is visit all locations in one raid as PMC. It's not the same route dependent thing as last time. You don't have to start on ground zero, but the way that it's specified, it's use the transit from, and it lists every single map except for Shoreline. So you don't really want to be on Shoreline to start with. Like Shoreline really should. I mean, it doesn't. Like, you don't have to do it that way. You can do it that way, but if you want to be efficient and do that as least few raids as you can, you want to end on Shoreline, because you can take any extract. You don't need to actually do a transit. Although whether you actually, I wonder now whether you complete the achievement despite, maybe you just don't even have to, maybe you don't have to play Shoreline at all. I'm wondering, because it doesn't specify it there. Because previously I think you had to survive an extract just normally,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd complete it. But it doesn't specify this. It just says use the transit from all these maps. So I actually wonder whether you even need to finish on Shoreline. I don't know. Anyway, either way, the biggest kind of bottleneck for this thing is kind of ground zero, which is sort of annoying because ground zero is on its own and there's no way you can go from ground zero except for streets. So you need to get a ground zero transit at some point during the loop. So that's why most people still start on ground zero, despite the fact that you don't need to anymore, because you could do them in any order. But this didn't really feature with my plan for Zero to Hero, because I didn't really want to start on ground zero, because ground zero is a bit like it's quite good. It's actually, you can get some stuff on there. And there's
Oh
like
yeah.
weapons boxes and grenades and all sorts of things, but it's a bit of a meat grinder depending on
Yeah.
where you spawn and whatever. And I have a lot more experience doing Zero to Hero starting on, well, actually just on the map reserve, which
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, this is going to be good because reserves a little bit safer. People go underground. You don't have to go down there. There's lots of stuff in the pawn buildings, and there's guns and ammo and stuff all over the place. So I was starting on reserve, but then that kind of then leads you into a bit of a strange a strange route because of the way that these things combine now. You do have more flexibility, and reserve is in the middle, so you do get at least some choices about where to go and what to do. But you're going to have to like double back through Ground Zero at some point. Not that we got that far, right? And this is part of the reason why I was like half-heartedly just, yeah, we're going for marathon, like broadly speaking, but it's more just like an excuse to do marathon and have an actual like goal for the marathon that drives us forwards rather than just kind of aimlessly playing raids for the sake of it. So I went from reserve, you can either go to Lighthouse, Woods, or Customs. Now, Customs is not really one of my favorite maps. Woods is actually okay. But if you need to get the Lighthouse section done at some point. So because if you're not starting over at Ground Zero and you're starting on reserve, you kind of need to do the loop. And this makes me wonder now whether I kind of messed up because I went reserve Lighthouse on like my most successful run. I went reserve Lighthouse Shoreline and then back to Lighthouse and then over to Woods. But I don't know whether I actually even needed to do that because I think if you extract out of reserve on the transit to Lighthouse and then extract from Lighthouse to Woods using the transit, there is no shoreline transit requirement on the new objective for the achievement. So I actually don't think you even need to go to shoreline. I think you could just go reserve to Lighthouse and then straight to Woods. Now, that being said, the worst part about that is that Lighthouse to Woods is like the northern extract on Lighthouse. So you're never going to be like right next to it, which is a bit of a pain, right? Whereas like on Lighthouse to Shoreline, if you go the other way, you can spawn in on Lighthouse at path to Shoreline and just leave, which makes it a really easy way to finish. But I mean, I think if you haven't killed the rogues the way I did it, I mean, I was in at night just kind of by circumstance, and if you cross over where you wouldn't normally, if you're USEC and you haven't aggroed the rogues, you can cross over by the western bridge and just skirt right around the edge of the map and get up to northern that way, which is what I ended up doing. So you can kind of go to start on reserve, get some guns, go to Lighthouse, skirt up through the edge, go to Woods, get some food. Then you've kind of got like some weapons and some food. It was very difficult to progress after that because I kept running into nighttime. And this is something that I never had a problem with Zero to Hero previously because you're just playing one map and I was just picking day and just running it. But when you're in Marathon, you're like, whatever side you've chosen, you're just forced into that again and again. And as soon as you run into nighttime, when you're doing Zero to Hero, it's really hard because like you can't see the scavs, they can see you, they're shooting at you. It's just like you don't have NVGs, you can't see anything, you don't necessarily even have a flashlight. Just makes it really, really rough. And I got killed by scavs a few times just because I didn't find any armor. It's like the only way that you're going to find armor is on a scav, but you have to kill the scavs to get the armor. So you need to like, and also get lucky and kill a scav that is wearing armor in the first place, which I kind of fell foul of a couple of times. And I ended up dying to a PMC, which was kind of annoying. But yeah, no, it was interesting. It was an interesting little experience because like looking at the route, like the old traditional way of starting at Ground Zero, going to streets, up to labs, down to streets again, you don't actually technically need to do that. And previous to this Zero to Hero, when I was just looking at Marathon in general, I was actually starting on Factory because I think I was harkening back to the days of the doing the guide, right, and like planning out which maps you're going to do for the guide. Different people have different philosophies about it, but my personal route was always go Factory first and then Lab second because Factory was super quick to extract and Labs was probably the most dangerous, had the most RNG, and I didn't mind paying for a card every time to try and avoid that RNG and having to do that last. Because some people, do you remember when some people used to do like labs last for the guide? Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, I always do labs last because I don't have to pay for the card. And I'm just like, you're mental. I would pay like 200k to not have to do labs later because that's insane. Imagine doing the whole thing and then you get on labs and you just die off spawn.
Yeah,
like it's just
much.
Bonkers. Yeah. So I was like, well, if you actually want to do the marathon thing, I actually think now you may well be better off going Factory to Lab, Lab to Streets, Streets to Ground Zero to Streets again. So you do have to like double back on yourself, unfortunately. But you kind of have to do that anyway because you have to go Ground Zero, Streets, Streets Lab, Lab Streets, Streets interchange. But having to go through Streets, you basically got to go through Streets twice no matter what you do because Labs and Ground Zero are off on their like little spokes. And because you can go Factory to Lab, but you can't go back the other way, you don't really have much choice. And then you just do the rest of it. Streets, interchange, Customs, Reserve, Woods, Lighthouse. And then when you extract from that, you should technically, be okay. I did like probably about an hour and a half of that, starting in Factory and going to Labs. And I didn't make it to the lift elevator, the transit. I didn't make it there once. Church. And I think that's partly because I was playing it like a normal raid. So you run out and just get killed off spawn, or you run out and you run into people. And yeah, it's just like, it was wild. So, if you are trying to actually make it, then you probably do what you usually do on labs, which is like go to the edges of the map, sit there
Yeah.
and do nothing. But it's just like I don't like to play
It's
that way
so
really. And
boring.
it's super boring. Yeah, and I'd
Especially if
rather
you've done it
get
a
the
lot of times.
yeah, I think so. And I'd rather get like I'd rather play a factory raid and then a labs raid and just play them like normal raids. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you beat those, you're like, oh okay, now we can play like marathon or whatever. You know, like because you most of the time you get through
Yeah.
factory relatively unscathed, and you could just go to the exit because the exit for that is now in that watery basement bit. There's like a door, and it takes you out into the sewer section. And you go off to labs with that.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, and then you can just kind of like play labs, get over to the lift thing, get into streets, then go to Ground Zero, back to streets, and then do the rest of it. But yeah, it's just a lot of it's a lot of transiting and moving. It's a lot of maps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, it's 11 extracts. It's a lot in a row without dying. It's
Yeah.
like the guide, but you have to do it all in one go. And as I said, like the worst part about it is that you end up running into nighttime half the time. I was like
Mm-hmm.
wondering whether you can. I don't even know, like whether you start on factory at night and then you play labs at night,
Uh-huh.
but labs doesn't have a night, and then you come out
Oh.
onto streets, which is also okay at night. Broadly, Ground Zero is okay at night, and then streets again, and then you're kind of getting back into day as you know go through interchange customs, reserve woods, whatever. Like the rest of them you play in the daytime. I don't know. I'm still like I've been toying with like different routes and stuff, but it's quite like it's nice to be able to use the extracts. I do
Mm-hmm.
enjoy it. It is fun. And it's a good way to do zero to hero as well, because it's not just like one raid. You can just keep going and keep playing with your like one life, one stash thing. I don't know. It's been interesting
That's cool.
for sure.
So, I guess it's time for weapon foregrip tier list. I need
Yeah,
like
you
a
wanted to
fancy
do this.
music, a little sound effect.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know, just something I was thinking of this week and slapped together last minute. Um and I may have missed a few foregrips, but so as I set up my multitasking capabilities, I thought for the purposes of this, the reason why I picked foregrips is because they can go on a lot of different weapons. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some interesting stuff, but we'll get into it. But I wanted something a bit more universal, and I didn't want to do weapons because oh my god, there's so many weapons. Like it just takes forever to do something like that. So I thought it was a bit more doable. And yeah, I guess because some of them are kind of like yeah oddballs. Like specifically ranking this, let's stick with. Can I change the color of this? Let's stick with yeah, there we go. Um, value in terms of our valuing in terms of like utility, not so much like oh this is a gunsmith item, therefore it's S tier. It's like not exactly what I was envisioning per se. There you go, a little bit more of a color gradient differentiation words.
Differentiation.
Yes. So, and then, yeah, I mean, it's going to be kind of complex because a lot of this too is like, oh, trader unlock, price. So I have to like pull stuff on the side. But first up on the list, the MVF. This is the,
This is the SIG one, is it?
yeah, well, yeah, this goes on the key locks. Let me pull it up on the Tarkov wiki on the side here. And then the full name is
I can't remember
well,
what this one's actually called. Like the real. Is it this one? The A3 That's the one. A3 Tactical MVF 0001 Keymod Vertical.
that sounds right.
That's the one.
Which, okay, here we go. I got the weapon mods page pulled up, and then so stats wise, what does it have, Gigo?
It is the most ergonomic foregrip in the entire game, as far as I'm aware. plus 10, but that's it. It's just a big plus 10.
Plus 10.
So it's kind of it's unique in that way.
Yes. Also unique about it is this is designed specifically for the keymon interface, which means it can only go on select gun/handguards. I guess it's mainly handguards. So those being the SA-58, Sports Universal Keymod handguard, the HK-416 MRS Keymod handguard, the AK Krebs, which I know you're a fan of, the
Good old
UFM,
Krebs.
the SAG MK1 for the SVD, and the MCX 12-inch and 8-inch, and the Trax 1 handguard for the AK series. So a few pretty select options, which does make this kind of a bit of a unicorn. You know, it's not as universal as some of the others, which is a bit of a con, I would say. That being said, as you pointed out, 10 ergo, highest ergo gaining attachment. That's pretty pog.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I've used it occasionally. I mean, the one that I think I've used it on the most is probably the SVD when I'm doing some like turbo crazy build. It's one of those ones where you've got the recoil on this thing is like higher than stock. Yeah. Because you change the stock out so that it's one of either the Troy or the other one. I think is it called the Viper or something? It's the other one that's like super high ergo and terrible recoil. And you stick that on, you've just got like turbo recoil, but you put this thing on the SVD as well, and you've just got like loads of ergonomics, and you just use it as some kind of assault weapon, and it's deadly. It's like I had some clips of this recently, but just use it at point blank, and it's pretty much like an uber powerful shotgun with slugs. It's kind of what it ends up being.
That's kind of what the SVD is in a lot of cases, I feel like.
Yeah. Especially the close range ones when you've got a red dot or something. It's like quite analogous to that, which is quite entertaining. So I've definitely used it on that. I mean, sometimes, you're tempted on something like the MCX, but I think a lot of the other guns, it depends. You're just kind of like struggling for recoil sometimes on those.
Yes.
Like, if there's a gun that's already decent on recoil, then it's kind of all right. But I think because of the key mod handguards, as you said, they're usually not SMGs normally. So you typically are trying to get the recoil lower. You usually use something else.
Right.
I mean, I actually didn't realize the Krebs could take it. I forgot because it's kind of special. I forgot that the Krebs and the Trax one can take it. Not like I haven't used any Krebs this wipe at all, actually. Surprisingly, probably the first wipe I haven't talked about it. I know.
I mean, yeah. Krebs with this could be kind of fun, but yeah, I mean, as you just to reiterate, it is kind of the trick is if the gun desires more recoil, then this is one that doesn't help in that category. And like depending on what attachments, like let's say it's a gun that you can't change to stock, or the stock options are like very limited. It makes it much more challenging of a puzzle to like min max and whatnot. Like if there isn't really a good recoil stock, then it kind of like lowers this one. And then also, if I'm building SA-58 and I have to choose, and I want this attachment, right? This foregrip, that means I have to get the keymon handguard, which means I'm giving up the more recoil, probably generally better stats version.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this one, and I don't know, again, because it is a bit of a unicorn, sometimes like flea market price can be a little iffy, but it should be fairly cheap, like fairly market price / what the trader's selling it for.
Yeah. It's Mechanic 3. I think you're right about that. Like, there's only 4 listings, and the trader's 8K, and the others are, well, the ones on the flea are 20, but there's only 6 total on the market.
Yeah.
And 3 of them I've got like the red countdown timer because like no one's buying them. This is the thing. It's just like it's sort of rare, so people don't put them up, but people don't really purchase them either.
Yeah, not only that, yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, but it's like rare, but it's like in the worst way, because I would imagine someone loots it and then they take it back and are like, oh, can I put this on? Oh, I can't put on anything? Oh, well, let me sell it in the flea market. Oh, there's only a few listings? I mean, this thing might not sell. Let me just vendor it, Or they might even loot it at all because it's not in that pool of gunsmith attachments. So, I don't know. What are we thinking?
I think it's
S.
B because it's niche.
Yeah.
S tier. I think it's like it's good sometimes, but it's a bit of a barbell. It's like you either don't want to use it at all, or
Mm-hmm.
it's probably the best thing because you really have to be leaning into ergo fully. Which it almost makes it kind of more of a meme foregrip in some ways. Yeah,
A
you're doing
meme
something
grip.
very specific,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, you're doing something very specific to make it work.
Okay, so next, the AFG grip was what I have here. Now, this one, do have to mention it. I think it is a gunsmith attachment. Like specifically, this is kind of the tricky part. Some of these are like multicolored, and that's usually not an issue
Mm.
in regards to like value. But because the AFG is, you need a olive drab variant for Gunsmith 17. Um, that does mean you got to do something there. Like if you find one in raid, you should probably, and it's the green one, the olive drab one, keep it and sell it, or use it against it, whatever. But using it as a weapon is a bit of a, or as a weapon attachment is a bit of a mistake, assuming you haven't completed that quest. But that being said, that is that kind of aside because there is multiple variants. You unlock it on Peacekeeper 3, the black and FG and FED version, and you can, or it has -2 recoil, 6 ergonomics.
Which is okay. It's kind of fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of fine. I don't think it's necessarily too bad, but it's not amazing either. I think the biggest problem with these types, and there's a whole host of them. If I just go to him, there's a whole host that appear on Peacekeeper 3 all at the same time. Is that this one fits on, I think, all the regular Picatinny style rails, I think, but it also appears at the same time as the RVG Black. So in terms of progression, it kind of makes you think why, because they both weigh the
Mm,
same, but the RVG Black gives you one more ergo. And then the price, I mean, what's the price difference? There is a bit of a price difference. It's like $43 rather than $76. So it's nearly half the price, but half the price in the context of one of them being 10K and the other one being 6K.
yeah.
It's just kind of much of a muchness, right? And like you probably won't notice with either, really. Um, so it's a little bit worse than that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but on the same tier. So it's really just for those who are like budget conscious. Also, you find like millions of these in raid because there's so many colors. They're all in the loot pool. That's the thing that I find. So if you're trying to find one on the flea, it's probably a lot cheaper than the RVG actually. If you don't have Peacekeeper, which is
So, well, hang on a minute. So you're telling me the RVG is cheaper than the this one that we're
no,
looking at?
no, the RVG is more expensive. But I'm
Okay,
saying
okay, okay.
relative pricing on the flea.
Oh, flea
Where is the
market. Gotcha,
RVG?
gotcha.
Here we
Yes.
go. Yeah, so the RVG, I mean, yeah, it's 11,000
Mm-hmm.
for so $76. To be honest, 11,000 versus $76 is about the same. Now, if you look at the AFGs, these are 13. Oh, that's the Gunsmith one though. 9, 10, 11. Yeah, they're about the same actually on the flea. Yeah, it's a very small price difference.
Yeah.
That's it. I
Yeah.
think I just put it in. Personally, I put it in C because it's kind of redundant, except for like a fractional price difference. Just doesn't really do much.
Yeah.
I think.
No, I think that's fair. It's decent. I mean, the only thing, yeah. When do you unlock this again? You said, oh yeah,
Peacekeeper
Peacekeeper
3.
3. Yeah. I mean, if it was a little sooner, maybe, but maybe I would rank it a little bit higher. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
It's the usual issue of the quantization of traded level is there's not enough bands, right? And so you have to
Yes.
bundle them together. So when you
Yes.
unlock it, it's like, well, okay, now that I've unlocked this tranche, the stuff that didn't quite that was slightly too good for Peacekeeper 2, but isn't that good at Peacekeeper 3 because there's better things above it, they just become redundant. So
Well, um, perfect follow up in my book. The AFG, the Magpul M-Lock AFG Tactical Foregrip. This is Very similar to the one we just looked at, both in name and what it does in functionality. So this one is also -2 recoil, but it has 1 extra ergo, giving it 7 ergonomics. And one, kind of unique factor is this one can attach directly to any Magpul variant handguard. So you don't need to buy like a rail adapter, which, it's kind of nice, convenient wise. But me personally, I really like this grip because it's just like, as we'll talk about later, it's just like 1 ergo less than the, more meta foregrip. So you're not really losing much, like just 1 point of ergo difference, and you don't really have to think about it. You get it Peacekeeper 3. It costs roughly about, a couple different. There is one
$65. This one I'm looking at in Peacekeeper.
nice, okay, which ranking wise, that puts it a little bit more than the AFGs by
Touch.
about 2,000, 3,000 rubles. In grand total, we're talking about 9,000, 8,000 rubles. Like these very relatively small numbers. But yeah, just for like late game convenience wise, I kind of like this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the FDE one is actually slightly cheaper, $57. But no, this one
Yeah.
is good. The one thing, we're talking about like micro adjustments here, but this is a very niche tier list, so we may as well. Is that this puts it on the same par as the RVG. This is kind of like for me the other RVG. So it's like, oh, if I'm just like making a build and I don't want to think too much about it, I'll slap slap one of these on if it's got a Magpul rail. If it doesn't, then I'll put the RVG on. But the one thing that is interesting about this that I've only really started considering recently is that it is very light. Now, again, we're talking about the difference between 80 grams, 40 grams. Like it's really not much, but it's half the weight of the RVG and half the
Wow.
weight of the AFG as well. And because you don't need a rail for a lot of
Mm.
the handguards, it's like a bunch of the Magpul, M-Lock handguards you don't need a rail for. When there's a rail involved, this ends up there's that website DB for Tarkov, and there was a community member, Space Monkey, who was working with the dev of that to work on this like Evo Ergo thing, which I talked a bit about a while ago. And it was all related with overswing and stuff, and trying to like figure out how overswing works. And overswing is related to weight and ergonomics combined, right? But that doesn't just relate to overswing. It's very useful for calculating that because it's a very binary thing. It either overswings on a gun or it doesn't. But this Evo Ergo metric works for everything and works for like ADS speed and all sorts of other stuff too. And what's interesting about this is because it's so light and doesn't need that extra rail, which adds even a little bit more weight on, this ends up like a hairline underneath the SE5. It's like super, super, super close. And despite not like, because it loses 1 ergo point, but it's got lower weight. And those two things almost offset each other. So I would actually put this in S because it's extremely cheap and it's actually one of the best foregrips in the whole game.
Wow. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting our first S. Yeah, I like this a lot, so no complaints from me.
Yeah, it weighs like nearly nothing. So, and it's got some of the best stats you can get. -2% recoil, which is the most of the good ones. There's a couple of outliers, but but they come with like significant ergo downside. And yeah, the only improvement you can make to this is the SE5, but it's a lot heavier, and normally you need a rail as well. So if you need a rail, I think this is definitely on par. But it's so cheap to slap on. As we said, it's cheaper than the RVG, and it's technically better because it's lower weight. So you're really only limited by whether you can actually install it or not, because you can't put it on every gun.
So next up, yeah, I just noticed I am missing a few, so I have to snag those. I think I didn't like the WebP format, but anyways, the Ash 12 foregrip. Now, despite its name, it isn't exclusive to the Ash 12, which could be a bit misleading. So it can go on various rail types, but stat-wise, it gives +5 ergo, and it is available on Prepper 4. Otherwise, I don't think there's that much restrictions on it, to my knowledge. Like, it can go on a lot of handguards and rails, of course. So I think it's fairly loose on the restrictions, but I could be wrong about that. But do you have any particular thoughts about this one?
F.
Okay,
It's garbage.
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the ones that we just talked about one that gives you +10 and no recoil buff, and this gives you +5 with no recoil buff. It's just like at the bottom of the list. It's just not good. There's a
Yeah,
few others. There's a few others actually. The staple of this particular category, right, of like no recoil improvement, which I'm sure is there. I think it's like the sixth one along or something. We'll come on to this in a minute. Is the Knight's Armament vertical foregrip. It's like the very first grip you get off Peacekeeper. If you don't meet that hurdle, you're going in the bin.
yeah. I mean, this one kind of frustrates me a bit because, like, assuming I got my information right, it is like 1,500 rubles cheaper than the CAC. Like if you want to do some quick head math, this gives 5 ergo for 2,344 rubles, whereas the CAC, which we might as well just go ahead and snag right now, um,
Yeah, that one.
it gives 7 ergo for 3,900 rubles. But the thing about the Ash is, in comparison, is locked on Peacekeeper 4. And every time on the flea market, people list it for like way more higher. It's like it's another noob trap, you know. So like if this was on like Prepper 1, for example, like it would be a bit of a more, do I want to save the extra rubles and, throw this very cost effective? I mean, I don't know if it's actually more ruble per ergonomics more efficient. Some type of math whiz would have to calculate for that.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem really worth it. I mean, again, we were like right at the bottom end of cost as well. So it's so cheap.
Yeah.
And like it's not even. I don't even know why people would be selling there because like it's not even necessary in the Ash. You can put on whatever foregrip you like.
Let's see, 469 rubles per ergonomics for the Ash, whereas the CAC is, I mean, this is not sure how accurate this price is, but we'll just go for it for now. 557, so a little bit more efficient on the Ash. I mean, we're talking like such small ruble numbers, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
how much does
exactly.
it
When
really
you're down
matter?
to just like pocket change of rubles, then it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'll take the 2 ergo, I think.
So yeah, F tier definitely for Ash, which is for me a bit of a sad thing. BSG, please fix. So the CAC PPG, yeah, Peacekeeper 1. Is it Peacekeeper 1? Yeah, it is, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
7 ergo, pretty cheap, like 3,000, 4,000 rubles. I mean, I really like this one early wipe. Like this is the go-to early wipe attachment. If you want like a little bit of a nicer gun, you know, or a gun that maybe doesn't have the greatest ergo, like this, I don't know. For me, this is often just like a very no-brainer choice on a lot of weapons, unless it's like I just want to use this stock AKS 74U to go kill scavs or do my quest, something very basic.
Yeah, because the thing is, when you're really early, I think there's only 2 grips that you can get. There's either
Mm-hmm.
that or the RK6. And the RK6 is 1 recoil and 5 ergo. So it's like, do I want the 2? Like, 1 recoil doesn't really do anything, but the extra, +7 ergo rather than +5, that could be good. The RK6 is also 7,200 rubles, which is quite a lot early to be modding. Whereas the Knight's Armament is more like, 3.5k or something that I think you said before. So it's half the price of the Skier one. So I do quite like it. But this is sort of where you get into a weird situation with these tier lists because it's like, well, I use it early wipe, but not late wipe. Like it's not a good attachment, but it's better than the Ash. Like, is it better than the AFG Black? But the AFG Black is worse than some of the others. So that's a different C. But then where do we put this? It's like it's not really. Is it better than the AFG Black? Like no, definitely not. It probably just goes in C as our kind of like usable, but
Eh,
it gets outpaced kind of thing. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, you're definitely right. I think just in general, early, yeah, I mean, I would say
Because otherwise it makes the
B.
tier list like crazy because it's definitely not better than the AFG, right? Which is it down in the C tier. Like it's down, the AFG is down there because of where it comes in the trader list, right?
The AFG is down. Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, Are you gonna use an AFG over? I guess I don't know.
The thing is, but this is the thing. It's like if you picked up both of these things, you'd probably use the AFG if you're early white. But you can buy the VPG at Peacekeeper 1, but you can't buy the
Sure.
AFG Black until, or the AFG whichever one, any of the AFGs until Peacekeeper 3. So it's like an accessibility problem, you know. And then but then it's like, well, if you put it up in B, then if you just like took a fresh look at the tier list, you'd be like, hey, why is that up there? Like, that's surely not better. Like, without the reasoning, like these things are like linked together in a weird way. Do you know what I mean? It's like strange.
No,
It
I know
depends
what
on
you
what you
mean.
want.
I
Yeah,
mean,
depends on what you want out of the tier list. It's whether it's like, it would look different if
low.
it was everything versus, price
Yeah.
to performance versus just like straight up like what's better.
I think
Those
just
things are different.
because you get so much value out of it early wipe, for me
Mm-hmm.
that like brings it up into like low B. Whereas like
Sure.
the AFG, it's like, yeah, if I find one in raid, it's probably worth using, but I could just sell it and just save the money and you know, I don't know. Is it
Yeah,
just like
this is the thing. They're different. They're not comparable, are they? They're not. It's not like apples to apples. Like, one is
right?
early, one is
Yeah,
later. I think that makes sense. I think with that context, that's fine.
that's the context. So yeah, anyone that's catching up on the that finds the link to it late, do with that what you will. So what do we have next? We got the Mod 3. It was just like the B,
The gunfighter, the
the
BCM gunfighter.
gunfighter. Yes. Stats wise, what do we have for this one?
This is basically a Magpul AFG, but worse by 1 recoil. So it's 1% recoil and 6 ergo rather than the
Mm-hmm.
AFG being 2. But the only thing I would say about this guy is that this is. Oh wait, no, that's not true actually. When did you get access to this? That's a good question. Oh, it's Mechanic 2, apparently.
Mechanic 2, and
Mechanic 2.
it's roughly 4,900 rubles.
4006, it says here, but oh no,
Okay.
yeah, the black one is 4009. Yeah, you're right. There's actually 3. Are these all the same? There's the BCM Gunfighter Mod 3, the BCM Gunfighter Mod 3 M-Lock. Ah, that one's a normal one. Oh, I see. There's an M-Lock one, a regular one, and the M-Lock ones are slightly cheaper.
Oh,
Interesting.
okay. Yeah, see, I think that's the ones I'm missing.
Yeah, so that's the regular one, but that's fine. They're all kind of the same. Yeah, like it's okay. It's okay. It probably just goes in C as well
Yeah.
at that point. I was just thinking, because you get Peacekeeper 3 or Peacekeeper. Well, I guess. Well, I say it was on Mechanic 2, right? Yeah, so you get Peacekeeper 3 relatively soon after that. I don't remember the exact level. Where was Peacekeeper 3? Let me have a look. Let me triple check. Peacekeeper 3 is level 23. Yeah, so you only have to wait 3 levels, then you get all of the good stuff for Peacekeeper 3. So it's not like you're going to be using this forever. You're going to be using it for maybe a couple of raids, couple of quests, and then you'll be off it again if you were using this in the first place. Which I don't know. Like,
I
the
usually don't
1%
use this
recoil,
one.
just, yeah, neither do I. Like, the 1% recoil just doesn't matter enough. And then when you've got the VFG from Peacekeeper 1, you're like, well, I can get one more ergo.
Right.
To hell with the recoil. At this point, I'm just not, doing anything with it. So, yeah. So I think it's either C or F for me, one or the other.
Yeah. I mean, we can go
Probably
definitely
C.
below the AFG, yeah.
I think. Well, yeah. I don't know, because it is slightly earlier. I think it's C.
So above the AFG.
Oh, you're doing them like above or below within the tier,
Oh,
even.
yeah. You got to.
Goodness.
The
Well, put it below them.
Put it below, yeah, okay. That's what I'm thinking. The layers of depth need it. So yeah, the perfect follow up is the. Do I have one that's changed now? So the BGV Mark 46K. I think this is also Peacekeeper one. Correct if I'm
The
wrong.
Tango down. I don't know where does the black one come from. That's the one that I don't know, because I've got Peacekeeper 2 here. This is like actually just slightly worse than the mod 3. So this is just like one
Black
underneath.
is
So
Skier
these are
2.
on Peacekeeper 2. Okay, fine. So that's actually slightly later, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Peacekeeper 2 is like really, really quite early.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. What's the word? Same stats. The color, it's just a palette change.
Yep. So this is, again, 1% recoil, but this is now 5 ergo. So this is one less than the gunfighter. So this, I think, just goes below the gunfighter, I think.
So the wiki for me is saying 4.5, which
Oh,
is
really? Which one
interesting.
for? The black one?
Yeah, I guess the both of them really. I'm just curious if it that reflects at all in game.
It says 5
Uh-huh.
here. It usually tells you. I wonder if there's a way for me to check, because yeah, sometimes rounding is a bit weird
What if you put
on
it on a
this.
gun
Let me
while
just
it
check. Yeah, I'm gonna have a look. If I put it on an actual weapon, let me take off the foregrip here. Get rid of that. Add this on. It does seem to be 5.
Okay. So maybe whatever.
Does seem to be 5. I'm having one last little check.
Yeah, go for it.
There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm removing a Geisley top ring mount. Yeah, it is definitely 5. So there
Okay.
must be something wrong with the wiki. Because the Geisley top is half. So it gets
Yes.
me into, 34.5 or something, and then I can add it on, and it's still got a half point on there. So yeah. Yeah, I
So
just think it goes there, personally.
yeah.
Like, it's still just around there in the. I never really use these. Occasionally you find them in raid and just stick them on, but the ergo's not that high, the recoil's not that great. It doesn't really do that much. I still would rather get the VFG a lot of the time for this.
Yep. Moving on, we got the Cobra. Cobra. Was this nine ergo? Yes, 9 ergo
This
minus
is
1
9.
recoil.
So
Which
this is the second highest recoil in the game. Sorry, ergo in the game, which compares to the other one we were looking at, the MVF.
Yeah.
And it's not joint with anything. It is the second highest, but it actually has some recoil reduction on it,
And
which is kind of neat.
it can go on a lot more weapons than the MVF, the one that we did at the start with the highest ergo one.
Yeah. I mean, I think this one's quite good. I don't always use it, but I do sometimes.
Yeah.
It's. I don't think out of all of the choices, it's not the most balanced because it leans a bit more towards 1 point in ergo is not worth 1 point in recoil, right? 1%
For
recoil is
sure.
worth a bit more than 1 ergo, but that balance has swung these days with the recoil changes and stuff. So if you are going ergocentric, often I will use them again. It's another classic for SVD. I was actually doing a build earlier for a video looking at the Scar, and I ended up putting it on the Scar because the Scar H this is in particular, because the Scar does suffer from ergo a little bit, and that extra 1% of recoil, is not gonna matter. I've like everywhere I've tried to go for ergo rather than recoil on it because the recoil's already quite high, but you want to avoid overswing and other stuff. So there are like places that it works, but I like it. It's a best in slot for a particular ratio of gun that you're going for. So I think it's good. I like it. I don't think it's necessarily the best of the best. I think it's maybe A.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
that's fair.
that would be too
Just
bad.
that's kind of, I was thinking something similar. Just because it's like if you're going for ergo, it is probably the best choice. Like sniping, if I ever like want like a nice M700, this is the go-to attachment. Um, Even like you could put this on well, I guess that might be a bit of counterintuitive. But let's say you got a AK that's kind of lacking in the ergo department, but the stock has really good recoil reduction. The muzzle brake, you went for loud, suppressed, unsuppressed version that has really good recoil reduction. This would be a good choice to really get the ergo, bump it up even further. Or you want to counteract a suppressor on the gun. Yeah, I like this one. It's just not as popular as some of the other choices. Next up is the Shift. Fortis Shift. And this one makes me a bit sad just because the way it's been sort of like adjusted throughout the various wipes. Because it used to be kind of like the go to meta foregrip back in the day. specifically
I don't
for
remember exactly what. It was the best at one stage.
it was yeah it was like a balanced between high ergo and like decent recoil reduction. I don't remember the stats, but nonetheless now it gives 1.5 recoil reduction and 8 ergonomics. However, should be noted that this is a requirement for Gunsmith Part 6.
Yeah,
And because of that, and because it's such an early Gunsmith quest, and it's locked behind Peacekeeper 4, this thing is basically a flea market attachment. I don't think like if I ever
mostly.
see anyone using this, I'm just like, what are you doing?
Hmm.
You
Yeah, it's
poor,
also quite
poor soul.
expensive.
Yeah, it's
That's the
very,
thing. It's like
yeah,
$132. That's actually a lot. That ends up being what, like 18K, something like that,
19,
which
yeah,
is it's a lot of money. I mean, it is again, it's on that. We've got an ergo versus recoil chart in our mind when we're looking at all this stuff,
yes,
and you've got one with 10 and 0, one with 9 and 1. This is kind of like the next one along that like bleeding edge of the meta chart in theory, but because it's one step between like the Cobra and the SE5, for example, then it doesn't really, people and it's expensive or whatever. It doesn't like people just don't usually use it. As chat's saying, it does look really cool.
yeah, it
So it
does
is
look
one of the
cool.
nicer looking grips. I like it too. I guess it's probably quite light though, 0.09. It's pretty light. Actually, is that light? That seems heavier than the RPG. Probably you would imagine a skeletonized grip would be better, would be lighter.
I
I'm
would
not sure if that's actually the
think
case.
so, but I don't know. I guess it depends on the mass of the material.
Yeah, because the RVG is I can't tell. We've still got this bug in EFT at the minute where it's like sometimes you look at it and it's right. Sometimes you look at it where it's like the RVG currently weighs, according to the game, 259,940 kilograms, which really is something. We're going to be creating black holes with our weapons soon if you attach all these things together too closely.
Wiki is
So
saying
yeah,
0.09. I don't know how
yeah. So
accurate that is, but
I think it's more. I think it's I think it's heavier than some of the others, which is just a bit silly.
yeah.
But like it's decent. Like it's definitely decent. There's nothing
Eh,
there's nothing wrong with it. Like you probably won't. In most of these cases, you wouldn't be able to tell really if you had a Cobra on there or Fortis Shift or an SE5. You probably wouldn't be able to find the difference between them. But where is it again? Where's the Strike Industries one gone? Where's the? I just want to check the price of the Cobra. Where is it?
um,
Strike.
I'm using
Gone.
this site.
Yeah, it's like 10K. So it's
Okay.
like half. That's like half the price, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, it's just like this thing. I don't even know. It's like uh, I'm
I mean,
saying
it's
like
still
F
good. I think it has a guy.
because like if I ever, but like I would never use this because I'm just gonna sell in the fleet for the
That's true because it's 30K on the flea.
because it's a gunsmith item. So like it's like functionally as it's like for using for like combat purposes, it's dead. Because it's like its value is in selling it, not in using it, which is like really messed up, but that's just the way things are. I mean, the cool
Fair
factor,
enough.
of course, it does have style points, so that's why it's high F, but it's still F tier for me.
Fair enough.
Uh, let's see what's next. I guess since we talked about keeping it in the same family, SC-5. This one is -2 recoil plus 8 ergonomics. So this one's like the actual, and it is a gunsmith, but it is way later in the quest line, like part 24. Um, and you can get it off of Mechanic 4, Black and FED, but you have to complete the gunsmith task. So you're gonna need one, either buy it or find it, and to complete the quest, and then you can get it for Mechanic for presumably a more reasonable price, but I guess that depends on the wipe cycle. I'm not really too
Yeah.
sure.
It's high as well. It's like Gunsmith 24. It's like the second to
Mm-hmm.
last Gunsmith task. So you really have to get through all of them. It's 15k for mechanic. Very slightly cheaper for the like FTE version. 28k on the flea for the black, 23k for the FTE. So it's not that bad. Actually, bizarrely cheaper than the Fortis Shift from the trader at least. But 15k, like that's good for this. I mean, this is the go-to grip. This is the one that everybody uses. If you just want to put one on that's like best in slot without thinking about it, this is the one that people use these days. You get nearly all the way up there on ergo. You get 2% on recoil reduction, which is nearly there. Like there are two. There's two other bands, -3 and -4%. But -4% has literally one grip in it, which we'll talk about later. And then the -3 ones just have nowhere near the same ergonomics. So it's the best one to use on most guns that you want to get a good balance on. I think it's in S. Other than this AFG, as I said, because it's Evo ergo thing, because it weighs. I mean, how much does this one weigh? Yeah, it's another 0.09, so it's twice the weight of the AFG. So it ends up being very, very similar, but it's still S. It's very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree.
That next one is interesting, unless you're still musing about the SE5.
No, not really. The
The
CQR.
CQR. Yeah. Yeah, this one's an interesting one because it is pricey, 146 euros.
Mm-hmm.
What even is euros in Tarkov now? Like, there's so few items that are euros. It's like this and like a handful of other ones.
Yeah.
Euros are currently 166.
A bunch of Mechanic 1 Glock attachments.
Yeah, exactly. It's very strange. Like
Yeah.
the stock, is it? The brace stock for it? But yeah, that's 24,000 rubles. So it's like one of the most expensive foregrips. And it only goes on certain guns. This thing is really picky about what you put it on. It's really, really finicky. Like a lot of weapons, it will technically go on. I don't know why it's done like this in Tarkov. It's just like it's very specific about what it actually goes with. If you go like the conflicting items list is bigger than the compatibility list. I think it's partly because of magazines, because it's quite wide, so it gets in the way of like mags on AKs and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah.
Not that that's a problem for some of the others that also have the same issue, but either way, I mean, this is one of the rare -3 recoil foregrips. There's not many. There are only one, two, three, four. There's 4 of them now, and of those, it is the best for ergo at +4. So it can be good. Like again, weapons that you could want to think about using this on. I've been tempted on the MCX previously. Again, just try and get like there's a little bit more recoil on there. Basically, anything where you want to reduce the recoil down without hurting the ergo too much. But it pretty much only goes on like AR-15 platform and broadly associated friends style weapons. So yeah, MCX, M4, ADAR, like all of those kind of things. You try and stick it on anything else, and the game's usually just like, actually, nope.
Yeah. It's tricky too, because as you pointed out, like for example, it can go on the SCAR, but it has to be the bottom rail of the SCAR, which means you can't use the better SCAR M-Lock handguards. So it's like it is kind of like restricted a lot. I mean, one very popular version that I see a lot is the AR-15 Dano Defense. Is that the one I'm thinking? No, not that one. It is what's the one that's like tubular, but it's got a bunch of like vent holes in it that goes on the M4.
Is that the Alexander arms? That one?
Yes, that one. I mean, I feel like I see that one a lot. Very common. And yeah, I mean, I love putting this on like an MCX. Kind of what I typically do is if it can fit it, then I'll try to make it work. Just because it's such a unicorn and it's like the best ish for in that -3 category. So like, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know, my brain just like has to like make it work somehow. So I am kind of partial to this one. I mean, for me, it's probably like A tier above the Cobra. Like it's got good stats. It's just finding a partner to pair it with is a bit of a challenge. I mean, it is. I mean, as you point out, it is expensive, but at the same time, because it is euros, it's like, what else am I going to use my euros for? That I pick up in safes and whatnot. I mean, yeah, there's like things you can you can save yours for and whatnot. But I don't know. It's just like Plus two, if you want, flea market is always an option, and sometimes you could probably snag a deal there. Sometimes maybe not. That just fluctuates a lot. But I don't know. For me, it's kind of like high A.
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, it's sort of situational, but it's the best of that when you're
Mm-hmm.
using it for something. I always find it a bit conflicted with this because I'm always like, oh yeah, I kind of want the recoil, but then it's only one, and I'm like, well, I could take. I mean, what was the ergo again? 5, I think.
Four, I believe.
4. I was just like, oh, I could take another 4 ergo by
Yes.
removing one recoil. I'm always like, oh, am I going to do that? Like, really? And even for guns like the MCX, it's like they want the recoil, but then you get to a certain point and you're just like, I kind of want a big mag as well. And then I'm sort of starting to get started on ergo too, and then so I end up like not using it that often. But I think I do agree with you. It is good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is lock behind mechanic 4. Um, but usually in my experience, flea market pricing is pretty. There's a decent supply of them. It seems like people are willing to sell it. And flea market pricing is
Yeah,
usually pretty reasonable. But it's just such a unicorn. It makes it kind of tricky.
23, 24K right now. I mean, one of the reasons why people want to flip it, I suppose, is it's one of the few items people actually want to buy. It's also in euros. So if you have,
Oh God.
you can you can turn euros into rubles
Yeah,
this way.
yeah,
You
that's
can
true.
buy grips and then post them up for rubles.
Yeah.
So if you've got like a bunch, like I've got 11,000 euros just from stuff, and like, well, I guess if you wanted to convert that, you can.
Speaking of unicorns, the MT VFG. This one is another one that
What
has
even
to.
is this?
This goes on the key mod as well. It is specific for the key mods. Let me see if I can find it here on my list. Here we
Just not
go.
familiar with this one particularly. It's so
Monstrum.
rare.
Yeah, Monstrum Tactical Vertical Foregrip key mod. -1 recoil, +8 ergo. So effectively a worse Cobra? Slightly worse Cobra? Well, I guess
Yeah,
is
it's
Cobra
or like
1.5?
yeah, with the Cobra, yeah, the Strike Industries Cobra is 1 and 9,
Okay.
and this thing is 1 and 8. So it's like one worse ergo, or it's like an SE5 but with one
Mm-hmm.
recoil missing. But it's up there. There's only 5 foregrips that have 8 or higher ergo, and this is one of them. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's either like a bad shift, a bad SE5, a bad Cobra, or 2 missing from the A3 tactical or whatever. So where'd you get this? You get this at Mechanic 2,
Which is not
apparently.
that
It's quite
like
early.
that's yeah. It's just again, fitting it onto something is the tricky part. I mean, MCX would
Hmm.
be a good option. I don't. Yeah, I mean that's kind of if you want to wait a couple trader levels. Oh, I guess the Trax one you could put it on there, or the Voltor. No, that's Mechanic 4. But you could put on the Trax 1, which is like, I mean, that's something.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
yeah, MCX for me is kind of like the go to for this type of stuff, which is pretty good in that. But just because it's so niche, like it's nice that you unlock this early, but again, because of the restrictions on the attachments parts, that makes it a lot more less desirable, less viable. So like I don't know. For me, it's like probably at least C, maybe
I think because it's so restricted. Yeah, I don't really know.
maybe like high C.
Maybe
I don't know.
yeah, or like low B. I don't know. Maybe low B.
Yeah, like it's good, but the restrictability does make it challenging. Yeah, yeah. Next up, P-Lad, the black one.
I think this one's quite bad.
Yeah, this one's awful. It's geared to -1 recoil, +4 ergo. I mean, skier 2, like, okay, yeah, sure, but like, the stats on it aren't really that great. I mean, it's just like a direct downgrade from the Peacekeeper 1, right?
Yeah, so like it's one less ergo than the stubby, which is on skier 2. It's also one less recoil than the RK4. So the stubby is 1 and 5.
Yeah.
This thing is 1 and 4. The RK4 is 2 and 4, and this thing is 1 and 4. So it's like there are 3 foregrips here, and this is the crap one. And it's only like the RK4 is really expensive. It's like 9K, but this is 4K, and the Tango stubby is like 4.8K. So you just buy that. Like you never buy this thing. It's an
Yeah.
F. You just never
Saving
buy it.
yeah, saving that amount of rubles is just like no.
800 rubles. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
What's this one?
the red
This red
one?
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is
This
a
is
newer
another Pilau?
one. Yep, they added it not too long ago. Wiki
Oh,
is
it's funny made only.
yeah, founder rate only. Wiki is quoting it for -2 plus 6 ergo. -2 recoil plus 6 ergo.
Hmm.
Now, I'm just saying, aesthetic wise, it's red, so you can go on the red hexagon AK. I mean, that's pretty hot.
That's the point, I think. This is an aesthetic choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
2.6 is not half bad, though.
Two
That's
six is
actually
not
only
half
one
bad.
under the RVG and the M-Lock AFG. It's like the same as the regular
Yeah.
AFG.
I feel like for style points, it's got to be like high C, you know?
Okay,
It's
I
probably
can agree to that.
probably one of those that you should never use, but just because of its style points. So I imagine on the flea market, it's probably like fairly expensive.
Yeah, I
And
just had a look. It is about 13K.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? Either you drip or drown. So moving on. Another bit of a unicorn, the SSVKF Ziggs Sour Vertical Foregrip Key Mod. And this one, Peacekeeper 3, -2 recoil plus 5 ergo. So, I mean, for me, out of the key mod attachments, this one's pretty bad. I mean, just because you could just attach a regular rail on the key mod and then use like I don't know the AFG even or the I mean I think it wasn't the MTG just better if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull that up real quick just to
Which
make
one?
sure. The Monstrum Tactical Vertical Foregrip, the one you were like, oh, I don't reckon. Oh, this one's
Oh, the 1 and 8,
-6
yeah.
plus -1 plus 8. Yeah, I feel like this is just because again,
Where
this
is the
is
Monstrum one sold? Mechanic
um
2.
yes, and this is Peacekeeper
Hmm.
3, but it's just 1 in 5. Like, wouldn't you just use the BCP instead? The gunfighter? That's 1 in 6, unless I'm mistaken.
This is 2, though. This has 2% recoil on it.
Oh, you're right. I keep thinking it's 1. Ah.
The only saving grace for this is that, yeah, it goes on directly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's only 0.055. So relative to some of the others, it's probably roughly 1 ergo higher than it looks because of the low weight when you take into account the rail and
Okay.
the, 0.08 or whatever. So it's probably not too bad. It's probably on par, but again, it's kind of restricted because of what it goes on. So I'd probably end up putting it in B just because it's like
Yeah.
not too crazy. But I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible. There's
Yeah,
not really
it's
anything that's like directly comparable to it.
the only other one which I'll get to soon is the RK5. But that's Skier 3 and they're basically the same price according to my sheet anyways. Um but yeah, just because of the restrictions it makes it a little mid. I mean, where would you want to rank
The
this?
RK5's heavy though, like 0.127. It's a lot heavier.
That is a lot heavier.
I think it'd go like low B.
Low B, yeah. Like between the Monstrum that's 1 in 8 versus this one that's two and
2 and
five.
6. 2 and 5, sorry, yeah.
What
But
would you?
probably 2 and 6 really, you know?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I feel like they're pretty
The
balanced in
balance, I
that
think.
aspect. Yeah, yeah. It's funny because like all of these key mod ones, I feel like they're really well within the key mod
Mm.
circle. Like you got foregrips as a circle, and then you got like key mod foregrips. Like these 3 options, I think it's just 3, just like feel really well well balanced. It's neat.
What's next?
Sturmengriff. Yeah, this thing.
Where's
I
this
think
thing come from?
it was another thing
Fighting
they
raid
added.
only, is it?
Yeah,
Why?
that is a great
I guess it's
question.
just something random. Does this
Because
come on the
BSG.
G28 by default?
You know what? I
I
think
have a
you're
feeling that it
right.
might.
I think you're right.
It does, yes. It's this is the default HK G28 762 by 51 NATO marksman rifle vertical foregrip, and it is the same as the Knight's armament vertical. So they're both 7 on ergo with no benefit to recoil. This thing is 0.068, which is quite light. What do you get for the VFG normally? 0.072. So it's slightly lighter. It's like technically very slightly better than the VFG, but you can't buy it. So it's
Well,
going
you
in air.
can. You gotta buy it on the
Well, you could buy it off the
flea.
flea. You could buy it on the flea. Or you could buy a G28 and sell the G28 back. You're
It's pretty bad.
desperate for this particular grip. Yeah, they're 18k on the flea for some reason.
Yeah,
There's 3 of them on the market.
it's another
It's
noob
going at the
trap.
bottom.
I hate it. Yeah, it's very, very bad. So, SFG foregrip, moving along.
Which one's this one? This is
Freaking
the skeletonized thing. I can't find it in the list. But...
tactical dynamic skeletonized foregrip. It is -2 recoil, +6 ergo. So another. Man, it feels like there's so many -2 +6s. Gunsmith 3, you need this one, and sorry, I said Guns. Peacekeeper 3, you need this for Gunsmith Part 11 and 23. So another one, I think 11's the Vector, but I might be wrong. But anyways, another one that's kind of like a little bit of
You're right,
a
yeah.
flea market item. I mean, just kind of cutting to the chase. I don't particularly like this one for that reason. I mean, if you like it for style over like the RBG, sure, or any of the other stuff, but I'm not really that big of a fan of this one. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a no. It's also really heavy. A lightweight aluminium tactical foregrip, 0.133, like double the weight. It's like 3 to 4 times the weight of the AFG M-Lock, which is hilarious. So it's just kind of bad. Yeah, just put it low somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
Drip factor.
Yeah. The UVG. This one is. I have to like double check because
2 and 5. This one.
it is okay. Okay. So, I mean, what's pricing wise? It is cheaper than the one we just looked at.
7.5k on Skier. It's on Skier 3 and Peacekeeper 3. So Peacekeeper 3 first.
I don't know. This one.
So about 8k there. It's going low. I think
it's also like
just
C for
redundant.
me. Yeah.
0.107 kilograms as well. It's like kind of expensive. That's kind of heavy. So yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of sad because like a lot of these are just like, it's kind of meaningless and useless in the stack, so it's just gonna go. All right, finally we get to the Zeniths, the RKs, if you will, RK0. This is -2 +3 on Skier 3. It's pretty garbage, so we're gonna put it in the in the CT, right? I don't know. I just feel like this one's kind of bad.
Yeah, what's this one? 2 and 3. Yeah, this is pretty bad. This is pretty bad.
And it's so high up, trader level wise, like Skier 3. Like,
yeah, Skier
I'm
3.
just gonna buy a AFG or whatever. It's just.
I put it in F even actually.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. It deserves it. F. F attachment. RK1 though, a little bit more exciting. -3 recoil, +1 ergo. I mean, this one's like the classic, Chad entry level attachment. It's pretty pricey. 24,000 rubles, 25,000. It's pretty restricted. Skier 3 as well, but it is It's one of the few that has that -3 recoil, which is nice. So, like, for me, I mean, it's either S or A right off the bat.
I can't put it in S. I never use this. I always find that
Really?
the ergo swing is just like too much. Whenever I look at this thing, I think, well, it's +1 ergo. I'd almost always take 7 ergo for 1 recoil. Like that ratio is getting like really wide. Like, and there's just not that many guns
I
these
guess that's
days that
fair,
make me
yeah.
want to take that trade off. But it's still A tier because it's got that absolute -3 on it, which it is good. But I just find myself just never using it now.
Yeah, that's fair, as opposed to the SC5. I mean, I would probably rank it below the SC5, but I don't know if I would rank it above the QCR. That's an A. So yeah, that probably. I mean, would you
I
say
mean,
it's more desirable than the Cobra or less desirable? Because
they fall into the same camp, but the Cobra's like on one end of the spectrum and the
for
RK1 is on
sure,
the other, right? It's
for
just like, oh,
sure.
you're going recoil this way, you go the RK1. I think they're kind of balanced. Like Cobra's like the ergo choice
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
expense of recoil. RK1 is the recoil choice at the expense of ergo.
that's
Whereas like
fair.
the SC5 and the FG are like, you get kind of both.
Because contextually, if I'm building a FAL and already have recoil reduction, probably gonna like keep with that theme. Because like, I guess it's not really a good or a good way of explaining it. But if you have a gun that has a high base recoil, then it
Yeah.
makes sense to stack recoil reduction parts. Whereas if you have a gun that has a low base recoil, then it kind of makes sense to favor more ergonomic stuff, right? So I guess it's
Yeah.
contextual what you're going for, what you're trying to accomplish, and what's the actual gun that you're modding with.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like that. All right, the canted grip B24U. This is an RK. This one is
Proper Chad one, this
the
one.
proper Chad one. Well, let me make sure. I'll check it from here. So -3 ergo plus two. Oh, sorry, -3 recoil +2 ergo. So one more
Yeah.
ergo than the RK1.
And you're gonna pay handily for it.
Oh yeah, I mean cost wise, isn't this 48,000 rubles? So twice the cost of the RK1. Um, for one extra ergo, and it's sold by Skier for after completing tasks beyond Red Meat Part 2, which I did not know that. It must be a newer
Yeah, it's one of the
newer one.
streets ones.
Okay, yeah. Um, but yeah, and then I mean that's just the trader price. Like buying off the flea is usually
It's 58K.
yeah. I mean, even like if you're in the early white 2, this thing's gonna be like 100K easily. So I mean it's good, but like is it worth? Like is it I don't know. See, for me, I actually would put it like somewhere in here.
There.
Below the
Yeah.
CQR, above the RK1.
Performance wise, yes.
But I mean,
So it
price
depends whether you want to
wise,
take the price into
I
it or not.
know.
That's up to you.
I don't know. Maybe high B?
Yeah, it can't go too low because it is good,
Yeah.
but the price kind of is a lot.
Yeah. I
You
think
could buy
that's
this, or you
fair.
could buy an RD704 off the flea.
I
Costs
mean,
as much as
yeah.
most guns.
Yeah. It is like it does have an advantage because it can go on most guns as opposed to the CQR. So like I guess that's true, but like just the price of it you're paying a lot. So I don't know. I
There's
just
also There's also the hidden advantage, which I mean, I don't these days. I don't even know if it actually makes any difference or not now. Which is the whole like it's a canted mount, and so
hmm
your arm is in a different place.
That's
Does
true.
your arm cover your thorax? Is it like arm armor is the best armor? I don't even know if that's still true or not. To be honest, I've kind of
hmm
lost track. I mean, armor's like so good now, and arms let through anything with like 20 and above pen. I mean, they do sap some of the damage and stuff. So whether it's worth it, I don't know. I mean, just remember like the double canted, that meta canted foregrip, canted red dot, and then your gun's like aligned at an off 45 degrees, and your guy's just like holding the arms out, just like all in the way. So I don't even know anymore whether that's good or not. This thing is really heavy though,
Yeah.
0.18. It's a heavy boy. Yeah. As per chat, I wish they just give us the rail to allow you to mount like random stuff off at an angle. That'd be hilarious.
That'd be pretty cool.
To get the B25U mount as a standalone thing
Yeah,
would be
that
quite
would be
fun.
cool. +1 ergo. on the mount. uh,
Yeah, that's how it would be, wouldn't it?
that would, yeah, that's probably maybe.
You know what's interesting, actually? I never really noticed this before, which is that all of the Zenit RKs are they're like a sort of single rail that are mounted into a mount, which then fits to a Picatinny. They're all like that. I never really looked at it super closely. So they're on some kind of like, I guess, Zenit proprietary rail, I suppose, which then fits onto some adapter to allow it to fit to like almost any gun. Kind of weird.
Oh yeah, I can kind of see that a little slit there.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because I was just looking at the mount on the B25U and thinking, oh, does that actually work on the others? But they're all the same. But then I guess that's the thing. It would only work with the RK series. Then you'd have two mounts. You'd have the B25U mount, and you'd have whichever other one. You'd have like a B25 regular mount, whatever it is, which is
Zenit
straight
tactical
mount,
foregrip adapter.
Yeah, then you have to have one for for each. What you make it even more convoluted than it is already.
Yeah, I think So we're okay with that slot.
I think so.
Cool. RK2. I mean, this. I hate how they did this one dirty. This used to be like another like go-to meta one, but stat wise, -4 recoil, so the highest of the bunch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and there's nothing else that has -4.
But it's -8 ergo.
Yeah, this thing got annihilated. I mean, it could do with a bit of balancing, I think. I mean, if you look at the ergonomics, it's like this one is -8, and then the next worst grip is the RK1 with +1.
Yeah.
So there is not another negative ergo grip other than this one. I mean, you could take it to -5 and it would basically be the same as it is now. I feel like -5 would almost be the starting point. And you could argue that you could take it down. I don't know, where could you take this down to before it became, starts to become like really good? Maybe you could take it down to like -3 or 4.
Yeah,
like
-3 or 4.
And then see how it goes. That would
I don't
probably be
know.
all right, I think.
Even even -3. So you get one extra, like compared to the RK1, for example, because this is a good comparison between the two. RK1 has +1 ergo, -3 recoil. And then this hypothetical RK2 that we're saying you gain one extra recoil reduction at the cost of 5 ergo, if we're saying -4. Like, is that? I don't know. That feels. This thing is so bad now that like I just never use it. Always sell it. Like I can't think of a single build that I put this on just because I mean, is there even a single build that this gun? Like, what gun has like an insane recoil base and also like an insane high ergo base that can or it can put on parts that have, you know what I mean? It's like you need high ergo and high recoil to get. It's like, what does this even go on?
Exactly. It's like you can't put it on any normal stuff because the ergo is too low. You can't put it on any or you wouldn't put it on any SMGs or anything which have high ergo because like there's no point because it doesn't do enough and it completely destroys the ergo that you did have. It just seems silly. Like I've seen it like once, I think, and I just kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit.
Someone said I choose the RK2 if I don't intend on aiming at all. Yeah, I mean that's fair. I have done a
0.5 only build,
sightless, SA58 sightless SKS before. You just
harkens back. I mean, the only one that I've seen in the wild was this one, this M4 that I picked up that I actually ended up like rebuilding because it was like the worst combination. This was the RK2 plus hybrid 46 gun, which I was just like, you managed to choose like the worst ergo to recoil foregrip and then the worst recoil to ergo suppressor. So they're like working against each other to both make the gun build absolutely awful. It wasn't even like, if you leant all the way in fully into 0 ergo and went full recoil reduction, I can respect that. I wouldn't do it, but I can respect that. If you just forgo all recoil and you go for all ergo, again, I can respect that. But when it's just like, I'm going to pick 2 attachments, one which gives me 1% recoil reduction extra, but loses 10 ergo on the swing, and then I'm going to get a suppressor which forgoes recoil reduction, but is like a little bit better on ergo. Those two things work so badly against each other that it's you just screw yourself so hard. It's crazy. Yeah, I just had that one build. It was like literally, and I've got it still in my stash because did it for the gun build and then never used it afterwards. But it's like it's amazing. It's honestly the most amazing gun build I've ever seen. It's like the MUR receiver. It's got an ARE, a red ARE with an MOE and a butt pad on it. The Raptor, it's got a Hanson 13 barrel, a QD handguard. So this thing is like, and a Growl, it's like bleeding edge meta, this thing. But then, and the low pro, right? Because they stuck the hybrid on it and the RK2, it's got 59, this is with no mag, it's got 59 ergo and 61 vertical recoil, which is like bog standard M4 stats. Like you can build that with like the Alexander Arms thing and then like a Chris Defiant stock on the back. Like that's it. And just put like a QDSS on the front or something. And you get like basically the same build. But this thing costs like 400k. This is like they got the same stats. It's hilarious. It's absolutely so funny. I love this one. When I picked it up and like looked at it in my stash, I was just like, the more I look at it, the worse it gets. This is like actually horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, this thing. I mean, for me, it's F tier, right? I mean, I just can't think of the thing I was thinking is while you were discussing that is almost every gun wants ergo. Not every gun wants recoil reduction, right? Like if I'm using semi-auto, a bolt action, sniping, I don't necessarily need, or even an SMG, right? In some cases, I would just rather have the gun be more snappier. So I don't know. This thing, it tanking -8 ergo, just like kind of like this thing might be the worst. Like bottom F tier. Like it's kind of funny because for me right now, the F tier is sizing up to be BSG please fix category because like these are all just like virtually dead almost.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. It's basically the only reason for this thing to exist is for me to say, here's the theoretical minimum on the recoil, and now we're not going to use this. That's basically the reason for it to exist.
You're not wrong. RK4 -2 recoil, +4 ergo, skier level 2. Cost is approximately 9,000 rubles. Kind of bad, this one, yeah.
It's kind of bad, but the only thing I would say about it is that at the point at which you get it, it's the only 2% recoil reduction vertical foregrip you can get.
It's fair.
And because you get it on skier 2, that's quite early. It's like level 15. It's like the only one that you can have with -2. Like at that point though, like the -1 extra recoil reduction doesn't really do much. But you know, I'm still at that point. I'm probably still VFGing every gun, you know.
Yeah.
But it's still like, you know, it's something. If you do actually want to make a good gun build, it's like one of the few that you can actually do that with. So maybe put it on something with higher recoil. Like if you do, I don't know, find a Scar H or whatever, you know, Rafale or something. Maybe you stick it on. I don't know.
Maybe even a AKM. I put this
maybe
on.
yeah. Like it's not very good in a vacuum, sure, and you do lose a bit of ergo for it. But yeah, it's like for its trader level, it's not too bad. But it is quite expensive too, like 9k skier 2.
Yeah,
like, you know, it costs like 20% of my gun.
I mean, with that, I feel like I'm putting above C out of all the stuff I'm seeing here with that context, and
I mean maybe high C. I don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like below the VPG / the CAC Foregrip. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I would probably use the CAC on most builds in the early wave, especially, and then occasionally an RK4. But I don't think I would rank it above the VPG. I mean, the VPG is just like for price to performance. Like, yeah, you're not getting a recoil reduction, but like early wipe, you're not really getting any recoil reduction to begin with. You know what I mean? So it's like,
yeah.
All right. What do we got next? RK5. RK5.
One of those ones I don't really use. So
yep. You know what that means? It's probably
it's
dead.
Bad.
Skier 3.
This one.
It's not a good start. As you said, -2 recoil, +5 ergo.
And really heavy, 1.27 kilo. Yeah, what was 0.127 kilos? So it's like heavy. It's on the next tier up. There's better options. 5 ergo's not that great. Just never use this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
It's
don't
just like a
know.
C tier, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Skier 3 is just like, I think it's
Skill
might be
3 is really high
bottom.
though.
Oh, I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong one. Yeah, I feel like it might just be bottom of C, no? Because, like,
Yeah, something like that.
or wait, yeah, we said bottom. I put it in B, bottom of C, just because, like, you could get an AFG or I mean, a VP. I mean, RK4. I don't know. It just feels like it's. What's the price on it again? 7,000? No, 6,000. It's basically 7,000.
Kind of alright.
I mean,
Not too
yeah, I
expensive.
guess it is cheaper than the RK4. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe we put in high C.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not, it doesn't suck, but it's just like
kind of
where it
a
is,
weird spot.
performance is just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, fair enough. Okay, arcade 6, rounding up the arcades. So this is -1 +5, skier 1. So you get this at the start of your Tarkov adventure. And price wise, 7,000 rubles. And this makes it basically comparable with the Tango Down. So, I mean, aesthetics, I
Yeah.
guess.
But you get it on skill 1, so
Yeah.
I think Tenga Dance is like Peacekeeper 2 or something, so at least you can buy it at the start.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Maybe just
But
a little bit above it.
yeah, just maybe just a whittle above it.
Yeah.
All right, RVG Black finally, and
I
the
love this thing. I
FDE.
use this on loads of builds. Like, it's interchangeable for the OG for me, but it is a bit heavier, so it's technically not quite as good.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's a one step below the uh the SE5, really, along with the M-Lock, but it doesn't get that slight boost from the weight,
Oops.
unfortunately. But it's 2 and 7, this thing.
Mm.
So it is decent. I use it on loads of builds, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's just like one ergo less than the SE5, so it's also pretty cheap. Relatively, it's like 10k. So I don't know where I'd actually put it. I mean,
You like
this
this
is
one a
2 off
lot,
the
yeah.
Cobra. I do. I use this all the time. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not really
It's
that
either that.
partial
It's
to
either
it.
S or it's like A. I think
It's for A.
it's just like, yeah. This is the one. If I'm just like making a build, I'll just stick it on. This is like
Yeah,
the
I feel
one that
like
I
it
use
kind of
constantly.
falls in the same category, the AFG, the Magpul one. Um, and then I mean, like, yeah, I feel like I would rank it because you
It's
can
just like
get
interchangeable with the M-Lock, the M-Lock AFG.
yes,
It's like the same as
yes,
that, although that one's slightly lighter, which is why that one ends up being up in S. So I think it's high A personally.
yeah. Interesting. Huh? Does Guns of Part 14 unlock the brown variant? No. So you can just straight up buy the brown variant, which is cheaper. This is another thing that I kind of wish BSG would like normalize is like the price difference between colors. Because this
Well,
one,
they should just be the same.
yeah, it's like you know, I don't know. It
Yeah,
just
the
kind
FD
of
one is $66 rather than $76 for no good reason.
exactly. It's like you pay more for black, I guess. I mean, we're talking like 1,800 rubles, but like, I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of annoying. So yeah, I mean, I feel like I could put this top of S, quite honestly. Um,
Hmm. I wouldn't put it top just because it's not like the best. I think the AFG is better technically, but
you think so?
well, it's lower weight and it's the same stats.
Yeah, but it's more restrictive. No.
It is. It is. I mean, do you not like the SE5 then because of the restrictions, because of how like expensive it is and stuff?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I mean,
It depends. It just depends
yeah,
how you want to cut it. Yeah, if you take into account all these things, performance and everything else that we have done, then sure. because like I use it all the time. Like for me, it's just my go-to. So
Yeah, it's like a easy
it's
no-brainer.
like
I
if it
mean,
doesn't take an M-lock rail, I'll use this. If it does take an M-lock rail, I'll use the other one.
yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, I'm kind of the opposite. I'll use the AFG if it takes an MLOT, but if you can put a
Well, that's what I meant. Yeah.
thing on it, then I'll use the SC5 instead. Um,
Oh, I see.
but that's just like an end of wipe, money is meaningless type of thing, in like a
Mhm.
very particular vacuum. Otherwise, I do feel like this would be my thing, I guess, where I would rank it. Um, okay, now we got a few that I have missed. And I will have to. I don't know how they're going to show up.
Well,
They're
that
going to be
one's the same.
tiny.
That if oh that oh I see. These ones are just color differences. Those ones at the bottom.
Yeah, those
I
ones we
see.
can ignore. I got to add a few here. I guess while I'm pulling that up, it is the cancel that. Cancel that thought. Let's see, live assets. Put it in here. Sure. Save. Okay. This one is. Oh, snap! Hit the wrong button. This one is BGV. What is even this one?
Oh, is this one of the new ones? It's called like Ossivets or something.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes,
The
yes.
RTM Ossivets B2. P2, sorry, P2.
What's the
This is weird.
stats
This
on it?
is this is kind of new.
Yeah.
It's -3 and 1, so it's the same as the RK1.
Okay, the wiki again is doing some stuff where it's saying -1.5 plus 3.5. Do we have any confirmation on
Really?
these?
The wiki for me says -3 1.
Huh?
The wiki for are you talking about just the stats?
Mm-hmm.
The wiki for me just says -3 recall plus point. Oh wait, sorry, I'm the wrong one. It just says -3 recall plus 1 ergo on the wiki.
Tango down
Does it not?
BGV?
Oh,
This
we're talking
one?
about a different one.
Oh.
Oh, we're talking about a different one. Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Talking about a different grip. This one. Okay, this one. I don't think I've ever used this one.
Yeah, me neither.
Let's see. Let's see what it says in game. Tango down. Oh yes, this is this one. The QD. Wait, no, it's not the QDK. Which is it? Which is it? This one. Oh, there's like a billion of these now. Didn't realize
On
it's
the
so weird. Actually, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's like 5 Tango down stubbies. And they're all coming up in the list. Yeah. So this one, Tango down BGVQDITI. This thing is -1.5, 3.5. Yeah. But like the ergo's like super low for 1.5, in my opinion. This is what, level 2? Level 2 skier, level 2 peacekeeper? At that point, you can get, what was it again? The RK4, I think, which is -2 and 4, and that's on skier 2. How much is this? They're like 5k or something.
hmm.
Whereas the RK4 is actually a bit more. That one is quite expensive. It's like 9k. It's probably about the same as the RK4 then. It's slightly worse, but half the price. So it depends how much you want to weight it towards economy.
Um,
Really,
I mean, I don't. Sorry, what was the stats in game again?
it's like -1.5 recoil
Oh,
and
okay.
+3.5 ergo.
Okay, so that is accurate. Okay, that is so weird. I don't know. Like I've never really used this one. Skier 2, Peacekeeper 2, and how much was it? Did we say? I'm sorry.
It was about 5k roughly.
About 5K. Oh man, I don't know. It's kind of
Yeah, because
interesting. What do you
at
think?
level 2, you don't really get access to like 1.5 and 2s, right? The RK4
Yeah.
is the only one that's -2, and that's 9,000 rubles. That's -2 and +4. This one is -1.5 and +3.5. So it's like nearly as good as the RK4, but it's half the price. It's like 5K rather than being 9K. Because the RK4 is quite expensive for an early game attachment.
Yeah, and this
10,000 rubles is
one's
a lot for an early game attachment.
you can get
So it's kind
Skier
of close.
2 for black, and then
Yes,
Peacekeeper. So I mean, it's got to
and
be.
Peacekeeper 2. So it's
I mean, can it? Does it? I mean, it's definitely going to B, right? And probably
like the
above.
RK4.
Okay,
It's
so
like it depends on what
similar.
you think about the RK4. It's like the same. It's just like the budget option of. So it depends on whether you want to pay the extra 5K or something for like half a point of recoil and half a point of ergo or not. So it's probably slightly better actually. It's probably
Yeah,
good.
that's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean,
Because it's
is
an
it
early game attachment, you care more about economy as well.
exactly? Is it? I mean, can this dethrone the CAC VPG Giga? Does it deserve that title? I've
Nah,
never.
because that's
I'm
level 1.
Giga's like no, no.
If the RK4 doesn't, then this doesn't, I don't think.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm gonna have to use that next swipe.
Yeah, try it out. Yeah, because it's 4,700 rubles from Skier 2
Oh, that seems really
and
good.
34 yeah, and $34 from Peacekeeper 2.
It's like
So that is currently 5,100.
I mean
That's for FDE. So
that's
the Skier one's actually the black one is cheaper.
yeah, yeah. I would go for the black one. Is like I normally would put a CAC, but like I would want just a
Mhm.
little bit more recoil reduction at the cost of some ergo. I feel like I'm
I
I'm
mean,
definitely gonna try
you
this.
gain 1.5 recoil points, but you lose 3.5
Yeah,
ergo.
yeah.
Maybe that's okay.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm definitely gonna give it a go. I think I looked at it and was just like, oh, half points, and didn't because we don't really have a lot of half points in Tarkov, so it's kind of hard to
Mm.
analogize it with or compare or contrast to something else. So,
Yeah.
but that one's definitely interesting. Definitely look at that one in the future. Okay, Daniel's Defense, Enhance M-Lock Vertical Foregrip, minus 1.5, plus 6 Ergo. And this one, Peacekeeper 2, you can get it black and brown. I don't know the price. You'll have to
55
calculate
versus
that.
$52,
So,
that is.
another non-standardization. What does that amount to in rubles? We're talking like
So
6.
52 is 7,800.
Okay.
So it's kind of expensive. It's level 2 traders. It's slightly better. It's better than the stubby. Half a point better than on recall and 1 point better on ergo. But it's strictly I mean, it's what it's like because it's at the same trader level. It's the same as this BGV QDT thing, except it has like a lot more ergonomics. Because that one was -1.5 plus 3.5. This is -1.5 plus 6. So Daniel's Defense Enhanced M-Lock is actually really good, but it only goes on the M-Lock rail.
oh, that's right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
So it's good. It's not bad. So it was 2 and 6. Yeah, well, sorry, 1.5 and 6,
Yeah, it's
which is not bad. I mean, yeah, for context, the AFG Tactical Foregrip at Peacekeeper
mm-hmm.
3 is 2 and 6.
Yep, yep.
So it's half a recoil point worse than the one on the. I mean, it's a bad one on the next traders up. I mean, I guess you should really compare that to like the RVG or something, which is like 2 and 7. So it's like 1 ergo less than the RVG and half a point of recoil less than the RVG.
And
But that
would you
trader level, it's not bad.
yeah, and I mean the AVGs or AFGs are gonna be paying. Well, I guess if you go off the olive green drab, you can get a kind of cheap one. It's yeah. I mean, I guess man, this one's hard
It's a
to
bit like the
place.
RK4 again because it's traded level 2 again. The RK4 was 2 and 4.
Yeah,
This is 1.5 and 6. So you give up half a point of recoil, but you gain 2 ergo.
but it's restrictive. So
But
maybe
it's
like
restrictive, yeah. Maybe there.
maybe right behind RK4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
All right, and then find the last one. This was the one you really wanted to do, the Osvets. This
Yeah, this is one
is
of the only other level like -3s. It's basically the RK1. It's -3 and 1. It's the same as the RK1. I was going
they
to have a
need
look at the weight and stuff.
get it from Skier level 3,
Skier
which
3, the
is
same.
soon. Oh, it's the same. Okay.
Yeah, and it is lighter a bit. The Arcade one's really heavy, 0.17. This one's 0.13.
How much is it for Skier?
Let me find out. What's this one called again? RTM. RTM
RTM.
Ossovets. 14,000
Oh,
for the
wow. Okay.
black and 13,500 for the khaki.
Hold up. This has got to be
But
like
the Arcade
eight.
one is 25k.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like got to be A tier, maybe S tier? Because these are like some pretty good stats for recoil reduction
Yeah,
and economy wise, pretty good. Restrictability, it's about in that it's competitive with the other options in that category.
it's true.
It's
Yeah, it's true.
not
It's like half the
restrictive.
price of the Hero Arms and not restrictive. So you lose 3 ergo basically versus the CQR.
I feel like it's got to go in S, low S maybe.
It makes me uncomfortable because I've never used this one.
I know. I feel like such a dunce using all those RK1s. It could have been saving 50% discount.
50% discount for the Ossovets, the RTM Ossovets P2.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's bottom of S for me. Maybe top of A. I mean, trust me, I like the CQR, but a 50%
Yeah,
discount.
it just depends. Yeah, it depends on how much you want to economize or not. I think it's either there or it's top or it's slightly below CQR or whatever. It's like it's somewhere. It's definitely above the RK1 though because it's the same. It's strictly better than
Yeah,
the RK1.
it's
So it just
strictly
depends on whether you
better.
want that extra little bit of. It's like it's either there. It's there. It's like there's only 3 places it can go: there, above the CQR, or
You
between the
know
CQR and the
what?
RK1, depending on how much you care about the money. But I
What,
feel like
what?
money. I don't know. I always like kind of deprioritize money. You know.
I agree, but the early white. I mean, you say that, but I've seen your
But this
little.
is like late wipe stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like, still, if you're 28 or 32, and you just unlock Skier 3, I mean,
Actually, true.
definitely once you start getting into like the higher levels and you have more progress and more money built up, I don't want to
Yeah. Then
completely
you don't care.
nullify
Yeah.
economy because it's economy is relevant when you're grinding it out or in the early game, and then B, I like my economy min-maxing minigame.
So do I. You know I do.
A ruble saved is a ruble saved?
Ruble left when the wipe happens.
No.
It's a sacrifice in Nikita to give you better luck in your next life.
Uh, so what do we learn? A, there's a lot of foregrip attachments. B, learn some new ones that were not really on my radar. Because this is half the problem with me for me is like with BSGs, like they'll add new stuff, and I don't know, a good chunk of the time, just a little bit over 50% time, maybe not, maybe that's too, maybe like 30% of time, it's just like, oh, another item that does absolutely nothing in the stack. Um,
Yeah.
but that being said, these latest batch of new ones, I think I did use the DDM lock. Like not this swipe, but like the
Oh yeah.
past couple of wipes. But it just took me a little bit to like get on my radar. But like definitely the Auschwitz. I mean, I'm just so used to always auto picking the RK1 right for like recoil reduction, and the BGV is also going to be like an early wipe one I want to try. Um, so those are interesting. And then also we learned that the F tier is actually the rework please fix tier. I mean, the
Yeah, that's like
strug them off isn't that egregious because it's like, oh, it comes stock standard on the G28. Okay, sure, whatever. But like, some of these are just like, what are you doing?
yeah, some of them are just not good, are they?
Like the P-Lad U, what was that like? 1 in 4, and it's like 9,000 rubles at the start of life. Like, good God, that is like So bad. Don't ever. If I ever see you with a P lad.
You'll never see me with the P-Lad. So the part of the problem with these, in some ways, is that they're kind of designed again around like the trader and the trader level stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you just think, a lot of this would make more sense. Somebody made a comment in chat earlier just saying like, you come to appreciate all of them if you're playing hardcore. And I'm like, yeah, because that's
Yeah.
like kind of how the game was sort of designed in the first, like right at the beginning. And we've got to mid-core now, as per Nikita. So a lot of these things don't really have a place. If it's not, like there's a bit of that in the tiering, but as we said, because the tiering's not like, it's not granular enough, a lot of these things just get lost because something else gets unlocked that's like the same price or whatever. Like the only other way you could do it is by dramatically changing the pricing on these things per tier, but then it stops making sense once you're out of that tier. So like it's just weird. It's
Yeah.
just
It
hard
feels
to
like they
balance it
need
properly.
another tier in my book. Like another
Yeah.
trader tier, like tier 5 trader. That way you have
Yeah.
that little, like, just that little bit extra granularity to kind of like spread it out a bit more evenly.
Yeah. Or even more, but yeah. So something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something like
Mm-hmm.
that's required, I think, if you want this to make sense. But I mean, I think they're okay at this point. We're just having stuff in there that's not really used. I think they're okay with that. I don't think it matters too much. It doesn't break the game. It's just a wasted opportunity a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll hit the save button. I'll handle that later.
Nice. Well, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I definitely did. But that's how these things go. So
Exactly.
I definitely feel that sense of it. Probably about halfway through, I was like, okay, we gotta speed this up.
I do want to go through the GrayZone Devlog because that came out recently. It
Sure.
shouldn't take too long because there's a few different bits. Like a lot of people have been waiting for this for a while. Like this is the next big update for GrayZone Warfare, which they keep saying like, oh, it's coming soon. Oh, here's another teaser. And I think like I do get the sense that people are getting a little bit like fatigued by kind of their marketing. They almost just kind of need to like go under the radar for a bit and then like reappear and be like, aha, here it is. As opposed, I almost feel like they're almost marketing it too much. I mean, I know that's not really a thing. I mean, at least he's keeping stuff top of mind, but I feel like, in some ways it's sometimes marketed a little bit too much and they kind of remind everybody that the game is there and is not being updated right now with the next thing. It's almost kind of like blue balling everybody a little bit. But anyway, they've released this Devlog 6, which is probably the most important devlog that I've seen out of all of them because it kind of goes through what's coming in the next patch. Because I almost, in some ways, wish they hadn't like deemed it like the night update patch because there's a lot of this stuff in here that's not really to do with that, and I think people might just like write it off. Like especially when I'm just like, oh, it's the night mode patch. Like I don't really like night mode in Tarkov. I'm just like, man, I'm really looking forward to this. But there's quite a few things here. So just like quickly whipping through. There's the usual stuff, raising the stakes, improving the overall player experience, blah, blah, blah. So new weapons. There's not that many weapons in GrayZone right now. There's the 1911 that's coming as a pistol, the AKS-74U, which is cool because I like the 74U series, AK Ratnik series of weapons, AK-12, AK-15, AK-19, and AK-308. So that's gonna be interesting because those guns, except for the AK-12, those other guns aren't in Tarkov, so I don't know anything about them. So we're gonna find out about them either in this game or looking them up in anticipation. So you'll be able to get the 74U in the starter towns. It's kind of like a starter gun, a bit like it is in Tarkov. And they're rebalancing the shotguns and 9mm pistols as well to make them a bit more effective in close combat. Because like I remember doing some pistol runs in GrayZone, and it just felt like you're just gimping yourself. Like it was weird because you're going to get your kit back, but if you don't make it there, you just die again with your pistol, and you're just like, well, I don't want to take another kit in to go and rescue my kit because then I've got 2 kits, and then I just have to go home. So I think that makes sense. I mean, the way that it works in EFT, and lots of people pistol run in Tarkov, and the way it works there is because you've got just super, super, super fast ADS speed. Now, I think that was one of the issues in GrayZone. It didn't feel like
I think I do
it wasn't
remember
that snappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty sluggish to use them and stuff. Like they need to just be like instantaneous. They just need to feel as if like, your player's got like no inertia, whatever, while you're using them. It's just like everything's just instant. It trades off for the fact that you've got like tiny magazine, you can't shoot over range, the sights suck. It's just everything about it needs adjusting. So apparently they're doing that. They're bringing in custom 3D weapon inspections, so a bit like how you do now in EFT. Like previously, it was a picture of the gun, but it was just like the freeze profile, so you couldn't move it around at all. Now you're going to be able to do that, which is kind of neat. So it's kind of just catching up with EFT, bringing up some of those features in that we already know and love in Tarkov itself. And then improved combat realism, enhanced anatomy and ballistics. One of the lines in here made me laugh, but it says, look, the update point 2, every engagement should feel significant. We're enhancing the tactical authenticity with improved ballistics, allowing bullets to pass through layers of skin, tissue, and bone. This creates more realistic and varied outcomes, making every decision more impactful. For example, neck shots are now much more deadly, which I'm sure every EFT player is going, hooray, not. Because neck shots are a real problem right now in EFT, just like so annoying. But anyway, so they're changing the ballistic system a bit. They've got some graphic here of the shot lines coming through and where they're going to interact. So that should be nice. I mean, I always found GrayZone, because of the way that it doesn't have a health box, or a health pool, it was quite inconsistent in some ways, and even more so than EFT, because you could shoot an AI in the hand like 25 times, but because you've got no health, all it does is increase like their bleeding and stuff. So people could you can tank an insane number of rounds in a short space of time without dying. And yeah, you'll probably be completely screwed after the fight, but you can carry on fighting for a bit. I mean, maybe that's realistic. I don't know, but it just was one thing that felt a bit frustrating, especially because the AI also share that same hitbox, right? And they are not playing like a regular player; like they carry on just shooting you as if nothing's happened to them. Whereas a real player's got blood going down their screen and all sorts, scared, whatever. It's hard. So, previously you were able to basically buy everything from the traders. This is the classic Tarkov problem that they've run into as well pretty early on, which is you could get up to, I think they renamed it, but they had the Daniel's Defense version of the AR-15, which was, I think they called it was what was its name? Can't remember. Mark 18 or something, I think was the original endgame weapon in GrayZone. But they've said, to enhance the game, they're limiting the availability of some high value gear. Basically, you have to do this. It just doesn't make sense. The games don't make sense if everything's on the traders. We've talked about this so many times. Powerful weapons, top tier MVGs, rare attachments will now primarily be earned through exploration, completing tasks, or defeating bosses, with vendors no longer providing an endless supply of weapons and ammo. You need to scavenge, explore, and strategize to acquire and retain the best loot. This is just it's the reason why Tarkov needs a wipe and gets boring, because of the trader system. GrayZone also has the trader system, and which game doesn't get boring and has endless content about it? DayZ, which doesn't have a trader system. And it's those games are very different, yes, but there's a lesson to be learned here. They're also doing something of this nature. So I think that makes sense. They're also adding durability. So these guys are going much further than EFT with durability. And it says, over time, especially in intense firefights, your equipment will degrade. More shots fired, the more components of your weapon will be affected. But the system extends to other stuff. So it's MVGs and other critical items. If you're shot in the helmet, even your MVGs will sustain damage. So this sounds like a lot more stuff. It doesn't show exactly this, but I'm hoping every piece has a durability, because the thing about that is that it allows you to have different qualities of stuff. You can pick stuff up in raid that's 50% or 60% or 70%. It's like in EFT, everything's 100% all the time. But if you're out in the raid and you can only buy, certain items, or you've got that rolling for loot aspect of oh, I got 100% durability, whatever. This is sick. We need to get out with this. It just adds a bit of variety and flavor to the game. So I actually think that's kind of nice. I don't know how that will impact, because it doesn't actually say really how this is going to impact the gun. Is it going to jam? Is it just going to be less accurate? I don't really know what that's going to do, because I know jamming is I don't mind things like MOA increasing and stuff. That's fine. So we'll see how they deal with that. And then they're basically adding the filters down the side, which I don't think, maybe, is that there at the minute? I don't think so. I mean, they're showcasing it, so I imagine not. And you'll be able to auto sort as well. And then they're adding gear cases too. I don't know whether these are just going to be from quests or something, but you're going to be able to get cases, because right now there aren't any cases in GrayZone, so everything's just in your stash. But you'll be able to get some cases in some fashion, which would be kind of neat. There's some quality of life stuff about quests where it highlights certain things. And then between players in the same squad as well, there's now going to be shared waypoints, which is shared. So you waypoint something and they get the waypoint on their map as well, which is actually really cool. I quite like that. And then there's also this aggressor system thing. So they're trying to figure out how to deal with PvP and people trolling, I guess, going and killing teammates, because you're not supposed to kill your teammates. I don't think there's any mechanic in there to really prevent you from killing your teammates right now, but this basically has a system that's coming in which says if a player kills or injures a teammate, they're marked as an aggressor and will lose the ability to loot their own body upon death. However, a nearby friend, even outside the squad, can loot the aggressor's body without penalties and return the items. So the idea behind this is that, you're punished for killing somebody in your own team even if it's by accident, I suppose, because that's kind of the collateral damage downside of this. Even if it's by accident, you'll lose the ability to loot your own body. But if you're with somebody, then they can loot your body for you. We just have to see how that works. But it says, this is just the beginning. It lays the groundwork for a rogue system that allows players to embrace a more chaotic and unpredictable gameplay style. Like, they keep talking about this over time. Like, Mara's talked about this, the lead. He's talked about this a few times, about how they really want this like rogue system where you can leave all the factions and just go like hang out with the bandits and just be like a wrong'un out in the wilderness. And like they keep talking about this and want it, but they just haven't figured out how to do it yet. So I think they've said they're going to see how this works, whether it works or not, and then figure it out. So, and then obviously the day-night stuff and some AI things. So yeah, look, it looks cool. I mean, I don't know when it's coming through. I know that Nice Guy, because there was actually a Twitch stream yesterday, but I haven't watched it yet. So this is just like the key highlights. I am actually going to I might even do something on it. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go and have a little look. But I know Nice Guy put a few updates on Twitter, and he basically said Night Ops update's coming with a wipe, and it's coming this fall. Is what he said, and I think that's a quote from the stream. I think. So it should be coming soonish, I suppose. I mean, it's kind of the end of that anyway, right? We're like nearly in winter.
Yeah.
It depends on when you count it. Is winter November to December? I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I mean, here anyways, it's typically December, January, February.
Yeah. So next month, I suppose, sometime like that. Could be interesting to give it a little try. I mean, the thing that for me, I just really hope that there's some FPS improvements in there. There's got to be. There really just has to be, because even with frame gen, it's just not adequate. It's just hard to play with scopes and stuff. It's just like it just doesn't feel good to play with scopes.
Yeah.
Like I would, like most of the time, I would rather just play like Streets with my rig than I would play GrayZone with scopes. It's just like the Streets experience is better, and that's saying something. So yeah, that's like, it's important, I think. So we'll see. I mean, we've said it before, but this game is one with a very long road ahead of it. We're talking years, multiple years. But also, we have to remember just how much, people rag on EFT, but the amount of resource and development that's gone into EFT, it's like 8 years in the making or something. It's like so far down the development process.
10 giga. 10 long years.
Yeah. So it's just, it's mad. It's mad, the comparison. So we can't be too harsh on them, and they're not a massive studio. So it's, their pace of updates is slow, but they want to do it the right way. So I don't know. Well, we'll see. We don't need to trust them or not. We just need to wait and see what happens. Like, it's either going to be good or it's not going to be good. And if it's not going to be good, we won't play it. And if it's good, we will play it. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
We need to be like worried about it or angry about it or whatever. Like, it just is what it is. Right? They're going to develop it at the pace they're going to develop it. And we just need to leave them get on with it. And then we decide whether we want to play it or not. That is all.
Appeal to my emotions, streamer, now. Make me angry.
Get angry. Lazy devs. Bring out the update. Come on. What are you doing over there? I've backed you as a supporter.
Yes, of course.
I
am financially invested in this. Obviously, I'm your business partner now.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, it's what it is. I mean, these guys have got enough funding, as they said, to last them some years. So they've got to do the stuff they got to do. Right? They've got a plan for it. They're going to work towards it. And we'll just pick it up and down and see what's happening. I'm just keeping it on my radar, and we'll check it out as things develop. And by the time the game actually releases in a couple of years' time, we're all going to be running supercomputers, so maybe it won't matter with the performance.
Maybe, I don't know.
We'll have a 5090 plugged into freaking 3-phase supply out in the street. We're going to have our own generators running these like 50 and 60 series of NVIDIA cards. We'll be on to the 14850 X3D from AMD. It'll be a 4-dimensional chip that spans through space and time to get you more CPU memory. It steals processing power from the past to process your games today.
Steals power from the past. That would be genius, actually.
Yeah. It time travels into the future.
I'm sure that's not a free resource.
Yeah, and use the piece of supercomputing power in 100 years' time today. If only.
All right. In other news that's not sci-fi movie plots or pitches for movies. Just quickly gonna shout out to Deadlock, the game. They have so like every other Thursday. Yeah, they do like an update. I think it's every other Thursday. Um, and in this update, as long as they're typical, it's basically like getting a Dota 2 update, but it's just like every 2 weeks. It's just kind of
Mm.
insane. Um, but they've added what they are coining Hero Labs mode, which adds 6 new heroes to this game mode, and it is essentially a testing ground. It's like an alpha within a beta within an alpha. This mode is only open for a 2-hour window every day, Giga.
Oh,
And
it's like ETS. It's like the test of the test.
basically, exactly.
Yeah.
And they want to get some feedback from, some of these heroes. There's like a very specific feedback form page for this, mode that effectively has these heroes. I don't really know the mechanisms, how it works, because you have to, when you try to queue for a game, you gotta select at least 3 heroes. So I imagine you probably have to select one of these, and then you have to select 2 of the exclusive
Mm.
heroes. But some of these have already been in the game. They were just like hidden, but you could access them through like cheats and console commands. Like it's actually really funny. The one named Fathom, his original name was Slork. And he has like a very like some of these characters are like a little bit more refined than others, like Holiday especially. She's really well refined and designed. I don't know how much of it is like, some of the characters they ported directly from back when the project was Citadel, or what was it
Right.
called, the more sci-fi themed version. Whereas now they gone for this more noir aesthetic, occult style. So anyways, but I don't know, I thought that was kind of crazy. Like when I first saw the patch notes, like the title was like Deadlock adds 6 new heroes to the game. I was like, whoa, that's crazy, but not quite exactly 6 new heroes. Because I don't know if you know this, but now they got ranked in. They introduced ranked not too long ago.
Already. It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
know. It's. I was talking to this friend. It's like they're. I mean, this is just things Valve can do, right? It's like, yeah, we're just gonna
And the
run
game
a free to
technically doesn't
play
exist.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna run a free to play game. It's gonna have like all your features, zero microtransactions. It's closed beta, and it's just like constantly changing, constantly updates. Like only Valve can do such a thing. But
Pretty much. Or even would. Many could.
even
Only
would,
Valve
yeah,
will.
that's fair. That is so true. Yeah. I haven't played it, but I look forward. One's called Viper, and like their kit is like their gun's unique in that it has actual recoil and spread. So like the
Oh.
longer you shoot it, like you get less accurate, and it has like a fair amount of recoil. But the mechanic within Deadlock as a whole, when you're sliding, you have infinite ammo, right? But you can only
Hmm.
keep your momentum for so long. But this hero, one of his, I think it's yeah, his passive is called Slither, and it's like when I think you slide like 25% further, and there's like different perks you can upgrade it, like get bullet evasion and stuff. And anyways,
Weird.
yeah, I'm curious to try it out and see. There's Holiday is basically Batrider. They have a lasso, just
Okay.
fun. It's fun to see like how they're sort of like taking Dota 2 heroes and almost like transmorphing them into fit into this game.
Deadlock.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm
but
definitely
yeah,
playing like more Dota 2. I've got one friend who's like really got back into it.
okay,
Like we're all kind of playing on and off. Like, yeah, one friend's just like even playing by himself, just like, oh goodness, what happened to
gasp,
you? You know? Like
solo
solo
queuing,
queuing the game. No
gasp.
way. We haven't done that for years. Not for years. Not for years. So I was playing with him last night a little bit. Um, Getting back into some of the old ways. Won a Sven game yesterday, which feels good. I haven't played Sven for a long time, but
Are you playing core?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. I tend to either play like 1 or 5. That's usually where I
Yeah.
tend to sit. But these days, I just play Chaos Knight over and over because like
Mm-hmm.
it's just so easy. Like Bleb tier. It's just like you don't need to rely on anybody. Like if you've got, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't solo queue, so I only play with other people. But if as long as I've got like somebody else who's kind of like vaguely with me and sort of vaguely competent, it's kind of okay because it's just like he's super strong. You get Armlet and he's super good. He's got his own catch. He's hard to like target because you can split into the different illusions. Just and then if you catch a support, they usually just explode into confetti in one shot, which is like always hilarious. And a
Yeah.
stun, so he's kind of got like everything that you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
Whereas like Sven is just like so much harder. Right? You just get like kites all the time. You rely on Blink Dagger, it gets cancelled by annoying stuff, like little damage over time, just like blips you, and then you got 3 seconds to wait. And it's like got to press all the buttons and do the stun and the ult, and like as soon as you go big and red, everyone runs away. It's just like kiting's just such a huge problem with him. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's been interesting. But actually, to be fair, I won the Sven game and lost the Chaos Knight game, so I don't know. Don't know what that
Oh.
tells you. But that was unfortunate. We had a Skywrath that like basically just DC'd and sat in base. And my friend had like a 12 win streak. One of those like what even is it called? Like you choose, are you going to win or not, kind of thing at the start. Like some people have that from Dota Plus, I
Oh,
think. Predict thing, like predict whether you're going to win. He had like
yes.
a 12 streak on it, and he was just like, I always predict on your Chaos Knight, so no pressure. And then we had then we had Skywrath like AFK in base. We had to do like 4v5. I was just like, oh, I just can't wait. I was getting Alk as well. I was just like, I just can't. I'm just getting beaten down with the whole team. I just can't. I was like Alk and Bane, so I just kept getting like stuck in Bane's ult and just very sad. I just not being able to do anything. Yeah. I can only play a bit of Dota these days. It just makes my brain feel like it's melting.
That's funny. Yeah, I haven't actually. I've been playing more New World as of late, which I don't even want to talk about really. The MMORPGs, I kind of I like them, but I also like kind of hate them.
The
But
endless time sink. You're just like,
uh,
did I achieve anything? Yeah.
I mean, yes, in quotation marks. But playing with friends, I could see why they were such a popular. Like World of Warcraft was so popular back in the day.
Mm.
That social element. Anyways, but so yeah, we'll carry on. Bits and bobs here while Tarkov chips away at its
Wallows.
update. Yeah, I'm sure VSG, they got to work on the more chicken pranks with roosters while also working on the main content. It's necessary. Marketing, of course. We all know this.
Yep. But we'll see. We'll see what next week
We'll
brings.
see. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you all next week.
Catch you later.